Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to this peaceful place where stories heal hearts and calm busy minds. Tonight, we're going to travel together through gentle stories that will quiet your mind and warm your heart. These are Zen stories, and Zen simply means finding peace in the present moment. It's like when you watch clouds drift slowly across the sky or feel sand running through your fingers at the beach. That calm, peaceful feeling, that's Zen. As we journey together, imagine yourself walking beside each character. Feel the soft grass under your feet. Breathe in the fresh air. Let these stories carry you to places where worry melts away like morning mist. There's no need to think hard about anything tonight. Just let the stories wash over you like gentle waves. Your only job is to rest, to breathe, and to let peace find you. Before you get settled, please like this video and subscribe. I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is. Just drop a comment and let me know. It's always wonderful to see people from around the world joining us. Now turn down your lights, maybe switch off that fan or any background noise, and let's start this peaceful journey together. So get comfortable. Pull your blanket up to your chin. Close your eyes if that feels good. We're about to begin with stories of inner peace, tales that will show you the quiet, calm place that lives inside your heart. Let's walk together into our first story. Part 1. Stories of Inner Peace. Story 1. The Quiet Lake. Once upon a time, in a valley where the morning mist danced between tall pine trees, there lived a young girl named Luna. Luna had a mind that never seemed to stop, thoughts bouncing around like rubber balls, worries tumbling over each other like autumn leaves in the wind. Every morning, Luna would wake up, and immediately her mind would start racing. What if I'm late for school? What if it rains? What if my friend doesn't want to play with me? The thoughts came so fast that Luna felt dizzy, like she was spinning on a merry-go-round that wouldn't stop. One misty morning, Luna decided to take a different path to school. She followed a narrow trail that wound deeper into the forest, where the trees grew so tall they seemed to touch the clouds. The path was soft under her feet, covered with pine needles that had been falling gently for years. As Luna walked, she heard something she had never heard before: absolute silence. Not the kind of silence when everyone stops talking, but a deep, peaceful quiet that seemed to come from the earth itself. Following this magical silence, Luna came upon the most beautiful lake she had ever seen. The water was so perfectly still, it looked like a mirror made of liquid silver. Not a single ripple disturbed its surface. The lake reflected the sky so perfectly that Luna couldn't tell where the water ended and the heavens began. Luna sat down on a smooth boulder at the water's edge and stared in wonder. She had never seen water so calm, so peaceful. As she watched, a small leaf fell from a tree above and landed gently on the surface. For just a moment, tiny circles spread out from where the leaf touched the water, perfect rings of silver light. But then, the rings faded, and the lake became still again, as if the leaf had never disturbed it at all. "Oh," Luna whispered, and as she spoke, she noticed something amazing. Her mind had become as quiet as the lake. For the first time in forever, the bouncing thoughts had settled. The worried voices had grown silent. An old woman appeared beside her. Luna hadn't heard her coming. She moved so quietly. The woman's eyes were kind and crinkled at the corners from years of smiling. "Beautiful, isn't it?" the old woman said, settling beside Luna on the warm stone. "It's the most peaceful thing I've ever seen," Luna replied. "How does it stay so still?" The old woman smiled. "This lake has learned the secret of letting things settle. Watch." She picked up a small pebble and gently tossed it into the water. Again, rings of light spread across the surface. But within moments, the lake was mirror smooth once more. "Your mind is like this lake, dear one," the woman said softly. "Thoughts and worries are like these ripples. They come, they make waves for a moment, but if you just sit quietly and breathe, they settle all by themselves. You don't have to fight them or push them away. Just be still and let them settle." Luna watched the last ripple fade away. She felt something shift inside her chest, like a door opening to a peaceful room she had never known was there. "Can I really have a mind like this lake?" she asked. "You already do," the old woman replied. "The stillness was always there, underneath all the ripples. You just needed to sit quietly long enough to see it." Luna closed her eyes and breathed deeply. In her mind's eye, she saw her thoughts like leaves falling onto her inner lake. Each worry, each racing thought, created ripples for a moment. But then, they settled. The lake of her mind became calm and clear. When Luna opened her eyes, the old woman was gone, but the feeling of peace remained. Luna knew she could come back to this inner lake anytime she needed to. All she had to do was sit quietly, breathe gently, and let her thoughts settle like ripples on still water. From that day forward, whenever Luna felt her mind spinning like leaves in the wind, she would close her eyes and remember the quiet lake. She would breathe deeply and feel the stillness that was always there, waiting for her, just beneath the surface of her busy thoughts. And you, dear listener, have this same peaceful lake inside you. Right now, as you rest and breathe, feel your thoughts settling like gentle ripples. Feel the calm, clear water of your mind becoming still and peaceful. Let yourself sink deeper into that stillness, deeper into peace. Story 2, The Wise Old Tree. Now let me tell you about Kai, a young boy whose heart felt heavy with worry. Kai lived in a world that moved very fast. Cars rushing by, people hurrying everywhere, even the clouds seemed to race across the sky. Everything felt urgent, everything felt rushed, and Kai couldn't figure out how to keep up. He worried about growing up too slowly. He worried about not being smart enough, fast enough, strong enough. Every day felt like a race he was losing before it even began. One afternoon, when the worry felt too heavy to carry, Kai wandered into the oldest part of the forest near his home. Here, the trees grew so ancient and tall that their tops disappeared into the clouds. Sunlight filtered down through the leaves like golden honey, and the air smelled of moss and earth and time itself. In the center of a small clearing stood the most magnificent tree Kai had ever seen. Its trunk was so wide that 20 people holding hands couldn't wrap their arms around it. Its bark was deeply grooved with age, like the wise wrinkles around a grandfather's eyes. Its massive roots spread out like gentle arms, creating perfect seats in the soft earth. Kai sat down between two of these great roots and leaned back against the trunk. Immediately, he felt something strange, a deep, slow rhythm, like the world's gentlest heartbeat. It was the tree's life force, steady and patient and completely unhurried. "You're in quite a rush, young one," came a voice, deep and warm like distant thunder. Kai looked around, startled. "Who said that?" "I did," the voice chuckled, and Kai realized it was coming from the tree itself. "Though I suppose you can't see my mouth, I speak through the rustling of my leaves and the creaking of my branches." Kai's eyes grew wide with wonder. "You can talk?" "Oh, I've been talking for over 800 years, the tree replied. "But most people are moving too fast to hear me. You're the first to sit still long enough in quite some time." 800 years? Kai gasped. That's forever." The old tree's leaves rustled with gentle laughter. "Time moves differently when you learn to grow slowly, little one. Tell me, why does your heart feel so heavy today?" Kai found himself pouring out all his worries to the ancient tree. How everyone else seemed to learn faster, grow taller, run quicker. How he felt like he was always behind, always not enough. The tree listened patiently, its leaves whispering encouragement. When Kai finished, there was a long, peaceful silence. "Let me tell you a secret," the tree finally said. "When I was your age, just a tiny seedling poking through the forest floor, I was surrounded by fast-growing weeds and bushes. They shot up toward the sun, racing to be the tallest, the first, the best. Do you know what happened to them?" Kai shook his head. "They grew so fast, so frantically, that they became weak. The first strong wind knocked them over. The first drought withered them. They were gone within a season, leaving barely a trace." The tree's massive branches swayed gently overhead. "But I grew slowly. I sent my roots deep into the earth, deeper and deeper, year after year. I built my trunk thick and strong, ring by ring. I learned to bend with the wind instead of fighting it. And now, 800 years later, I am still here. I have weathered countless storms, sheltered thousands of creatures, and watched over this forest with patience and love." Kai felt something shift in his chest, a loosening of the tight knot of worry he had been carrying. "Growing slowly made you stronger?" he asked. "Growing slowly made me rooted," the tree replied. "Strength doesn't come from rushing, young one. It comes from staying grounded, from building your foundation deep and sure. The mightiest trees are not the fastest growing, they are the most deeply rooted." Kai pressed his small hand against the tree's bark and felt that steady, patient heartbeat again. "But how do I stop worrying about being behind everyone else?" "Look at my branches," the tree said softly. "See how they all reach toward the light, but each one grows at its own pace, in its own direction. No branch worries about being slower than the others. Each one simply grows toward what it needs, in its own perfect time." Kai looked up and saw hundreds of branches, each one unique, each one finding its own path toward the sunlight, filtering through the forest canopy. "You are like one of my branches," the tree whispered. "You are growing exactly as you should, at exactly the right pace. Trust your roots, the love of your family, the kindness in your heart, the wisdom you're gathering day by day. Let these roots go deep and strong, and you will weather any storm." As the sun began to set, painting the forest in shades of gold and amber, Kai felt a new kind of strength growing inside him. Not the frantic energy of trying to keep up, but the quiet, steady power of being deeply rooted. "Can I come back and visit you?" Kai asked. "I will be here," the tree promised, growing slowly, staying strong, and whenever you need to remember your own deep roots, just close your eyes and feel for that steady heartbeat. It's not just mine, it's yours too. The patient rhythm of a soul that knows it's growing exactly as it should. Kai hugged the ancient trunk, feeling small and safe and perfectly enough just as he was. As he walked home through the deepening forest, he no longer felt the need to hurry. He walked with the steady, grounded pace of someone who knew that growing slowly was growing strong. And now, dear listener, feel your own roots going deep, deep into the earth beneath you. Feel the patient rhythm of your own growth. You too are growing at exactly the right pace, building strength that will last. Let yourself sink into that deep-rooted feeling of being perfectly enough. exactly as you are. Story 3. The dancing leaves high in the canopy of an ancient maple tree. Two leaves grew side by side on the same branch. Their names were Amber and Sage, and they had been best friends since they were tiny buds unfurling in the spring sunshine. Amber was a leaf who liked things to stay exactly as they were. She loved her spot on the branch, loved the way the morning sun tickled her edges, loved the familiar view of the forest spread out below. The thought of change made her curl up tight with worry. Sage, on the other hand, was curious about everything. She watched the seasons shifting, saw other leaves letting go and dancing on the autumn wind, and wondered what it would be like to float freely through the air. As autumn arrived, painting the forest in colors of gold and crimson, both leaves felt something new stirring in their stems, a gentle loosening, as if they were being invited to let go. "Oh no, oh no," Amber cried, gripping her branch even tighter with her stem. "I don't want to fall. What if I get lost? What if I never find my way back? What if this is goodbye forever?" Sage felt the same tugging sensation, but instead of fear, she felt excited. "Amber," she said gently, "look around us. See how the other leaves are dancing on the wind. They look so free, so joyful. Maybe letting go isn't something scary. Maybe it's something beautiful." But Amber just held on tighter. "You don't understand," she whispered. "This branch is safe. I know exactly where I belong here. Out there." She gestured toward the open air with a trembling edge. "Out there is unknown. Out there is scary." Day by day, Amber watched as her neighbors released their hold and spiraled gracefully down through the golden air. Some landed in soft piles near the tree's roots. Some were carried by gentle breezes to new parts of the forest. All of them seemed peaceful, content, as if they had found something wonderful in their letting go. Still, Amber held on. One morning, a particularly strong gust of wind shook their branch. Sage felt her stem loosening even more, and she knew her time for letting go had come. "Amber," she said softly, "I think this is my moment. Will you come with me?" "I can't," Amber cried. "I'm too scared. What if we get separated? What if I don't know how to float? What if it's the most beautiful adventure we've ever had?" Sage interrupted gently. "What if the wind knows exactly where to take us? What if letting go is how we discover who we really are?" Another gust of wind came, and Sage felt herself lifting away from the branch. For just a moment, she felt afraid too. But then she felt the most incredible sensation of freedom. The wind caught her gently, like loving hands, and she found herself dancing through the air, spinning and twirling in ways she had never imagined possible. "Amber," she called back as she danced on the breeze. "It's wonderful. The wind isn't scary. It's like music you can ride. Come join me." But Amber just pressed herself closer to the branch, watching her best friend spiral away on the autumn air. Days passed. Amber was now the only leaf left on her part of the branch. She felt lonely and afraid, but still she held on. The tree itself began to speak to her in its deep, patient voice. "Little leaf," the tree said, "why do you fight what is natural? Even I, with all my deep roots and strong trunk, know that some things must be released in their time. My leaves are not lost when they let go. They become part of the earth that feeds my roots. They become part of the eternal dance of life." "But I don't know how to let go," Amber whispered. "I only know how to hold on." "Letting go isn't something you do," the tree replied wisely. "It's something you allow, like breathing out after breathing in, like trusting that the sun will rise after it sets. The wind knows how to carry you. Your only job is to trust. That night, under a sky full of stars, Amber felt something shift inside her. She thought of Sage, dancing freely through the forest. She thought of all the leaves who had let go with such grace and peace. She thought of the tree's words about trust. Slowly, very slowly, Amber began to relax her grip on the branch. "I'm scared," she whispered to the wind. "I know," the wind whispered back. "It's okay to be scared. I'll be gentle with you." And with that promise, Amber let go. The sensation was nothing like what she had feared. Instead of falling, she felt like she was flying. The wind lifted her gently, spinning her in slow, graceful circles. She could see the whole forest spread out below her like a magnificent tapestry. She felt lighter than she had ever felt, free in a way she never knew was possible. As she danced through the air, she saw Sage spinning nearby, laughing with joy. "You did it," Sage called. "How does it feel?" Like I was born to fly," Amber replied, amazed at her own words. "I spent so much time afraid of letting go that I forgot how good it feels to be free." Together, the two friends danced on the autumn wind, spinning and swirling in perfect harmony. They landed gently in a soft pile of leaves near a babbling brook, where they would rest and, in time, become part of the earth that would nourish new life in the spring. As she settled into her soft landing spot, Amber understood something beautiful. Letting go hadn't meant losing everything. It had meant finding freedom. It had meant trusting life to carry her exactly where she needed to be. And you, dear listener, what are you holding on to too tightly? What would it feel like to relax your grip just a little? To trust that life knows how to carry you? Feel yourself softening, like Amber finally letting go. Feel yourself dancing on the gentle wind of trust, letting yourself be carried to exactly where you need to be. Story 4. The Lighthouse Keeper's Secret. On a rocky cliff overlooking a vast, ever-changing ocean, stood a lighthouse that had been guiding ships safely to shore for over 100 years. Its beam of light swept across the waves every night, steady and sure, no matter what kind of weather raged around it. The lighthouse was tended by an old keeper named Samuel, who had lived there for so many years that the local fishermen said he had become part of the lighthouse itself. Samuel had weathered countless storms, howling winds that shook the very foundations, rain that came down like rivers from the sky, waves that crashed so high they seemed to reach for the stars. Yet Samuel was known throughout the harbor town as the calmest person anyone had ever met. While others worried about the storms, Samuel remained peaceful. While others panicked when the winds grew strong, Samuel simply went about his work with quiet confidence. One day, a young woman named Maya arrived at the lighthouse. She was a news reporter who had come to write a story about Samuel, but really, she had come seeking something else entirely. Maya's life felt like a constant storm, always rushing, always worried, always feeling like she was drowning in a sea of responsibilities and fears. "How do you do it?" Maya asked Samuel as they sat in the lighthouse's cozy kitchen, drinking warm tea while rain drummed against the windows. "How do you stay so calm when everything around you is chaos?" Samuel's weathered face crinkled into a gentle smile. "Come," he said, setting down his teacup. "Let me show you the secret." He led Maya up the winding stairs of the lighthouse, past windows that showed the storm raging outside. At the very top, they entered the lantern room, where the great light slowly rotated, sending its beam out across the turbulent waters. "Look out there," Samuel said, gesturing toward the storm. "What do you see?" "Chaos," Maya replied immediately. "Danger, waves that could destroy anything in their path, wind that could knock down trees. It's terrifying." "Look closer," Samuel said softly. Not at the individual waves, but at the whole ocean. Maya stared out into the stormy night. At first, all she could see was the violence of the storm. But gradually, as her eyes adjusted and her breathing slowed, she began to see something else. Beneath all the surface chaos, there was something vast and deep and unchanging. The ocean itself, not the waves on top, but the deep, eternal ocean below, remained constant and calm. "The waves are temporary," Samuel said quietly. "They rise and they fall, they crash and they recede. But the ocean is always there, deep and vast and peaceful. The storm happens on the surface. Down below, in the depths, there is always stillness." Maya felt something shift in her understanding, like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. "My secret," Samuel continued, "is that I don't try to calm the storm. I connect with the deep ocean. When the winds howl around this lighthouse, I don't fight them. I become like the ocean. I let the storms of life happen on the surface while I stay rooted in the deep peace below." As if to demonstrate his point, a particularly fierce gust of wind shook the lighthouse. Maya instinctively gripped the railing, but Samuel remained perfectly still, perfectly calm. "The lighthouse doesn't fight the storm," he said. "It simply continues to shine. It stays grounded on its solid foundation and keeps offering its light to anyone who needs guidance. That's all we can do in the storms of life. Stay rooted in our deep peace and keep shining our light." Maya watched the lighthouse beam sweep across the waters, steady and sure. "But how do you find that deep peace when everything feels chaotic?" Samuel placed a gentle hand over his heart. "It starts here," he said, "in the quiet space inside you that is always calm, no matter what storms rage around you. Every person has this peaceful center, this inner lighthouse. But most people get so caught up in the surface waves that they forget about the deep ocean of peace inside them." He led Maya to sit on a comfortable bench facing the great light. "Close your eyes," he said. "Feel the lighthouse beam sweeping around. Imagine that you are this lighthouse, solid, grounded, with your own inner light that nothing can extinguish." Maya closed her eyes and felt something amazing happen. Even though the storm continued to rage outside, she felt a deep stillness growing inside her chest. It was as if she had discovered an inner room that was always quiet, always peaceful, no matter what was happening in the world around her. "Now," Samuel's voice came like a gentle wave, "imagine all your worries and fears are like the storm outside. They make noise, they create waves, but they cannot touch the deep ocean of peace that you truly are. Let them storm on the surface while you rest in your depths." Maya sat in this peaceful feeling for a long time, listening to the storm rage while her inner ocean remained perfectly calm. When she finally opened her eyes, the storm outside was still going strong, but she felt completely different inside. "The storms will always come," Samuel said as they made their way back down the lighthouse stairs. "That's the nature of life. But now you know the secret. You don't have to become the storm. You can be the lighthouse. You can stay rooted in your deep peace and keep shining your light, helping others find their way safely through whatever storms they're facing." As Maya prepared to leave the next morning, she looked back at the lighthouse, standing tall and serene against the clearing sky. She understood now that she carried her own lighthouse within her, a steady light that could guide her through any storm a deep peace that no chaos could disturb. And you, dear listener, you have this same lighthouse inside you. Right now, feel yourself settling into that deep, calm ocean beneath the surface waves of your thoughts. Feel your inner light glowing steady and sure. No matter what storms may come, your lighthouse stands strong. Your inner peace remains unshakable. Part 2. Stories of kindness and compassion. Now that we've found our inner peace, like the quiet lake and the wise old tree, let's walk together into stories of kindness, tales that show us how love grows when we share it, and how the gentlest hearts can change the world. Story 5. The Magic Garden. In a small village where the houses were painted bright colors and flower boxes sat beneath every window, there lived a young girl named Rose who had the most ordinary backyard you could imagine. It was just a patch of brown dirt behind her house. No flowers, no trees, nothing but empty earth and a few stubborn weeds. Rose had always wished her yard could be beautiful like her neighbor's garden, with its rainbow of flowers and sweet-smelling herbs. But her family didn't have money for fancy plants or gardening tools. All Rose had was a small packet of mystery seeds her grandmother had given her before she passed away. "These are very special seeds," her grandmother had whispered, pressing the little envelope into Rose's small hands. "But they don't grow the way ordinary seeds do. You'll understand when you're ready." Rose had kept the seeds in her desk drawer for months, not sure what her grandmother had meant. They looked like perfectly normal seeds. Small, brown, nothing magical about them at all. One morning, Rose woke up feeling sad. Her classmate Tommy had been mean to the new girl at school, calling her weird because she spoke with an accent. Rose had wanted to say something kind, but she'd been too shy. All day, she felt like she'd missed a chance to help someone who needed a friend. That afternoon, Rose sat in her empty backyard holding her grandmother's seeds. "I wish I knew how to make beautiful things grow," she said to the brown earth. "I wish I could help people feel better." Almost without thinking, Rose dug a small hole and planted one of the mystery seeds. As she covered it with soil, she made a wish. "I hope Emma feels welcome at our school tomorrow." The next day at school, Rose gathered her courage and sat next to Emma at lunch. "Would you like to sit with my friends?" Rose asked with a warm smile. "We'd love to hear about where you lived before." Emma's face lit up like sunshine after rain. "Really? I was hoping someone would want to be my friend." When Rose got home that afternoon, she couldn't believe her eyes. In the exact spot where she had planted the seed and made her wish for Emma, a beautiful golden flower had bloomed. Not just any flower, but the most radiant bloom she had ever seen, with petals that seemed to glow from within. "Grandmother's magic seeds," Rose whispered in wonder. Over the next few days, Rose experimented with her discovery. When she helped carry groceries for elderly Mr. Chen next door, she planted a seed and wished for his back pain to feel better. The next morning, a gentle blue flower bloomed in that spot, and Mr. Chen mentioned to her mother that he'd had the best night's sleep in years. When Rose shared her lunch with a classmate who had forgotten his, she planted another seed. A cheerful red flower appeared, bright as laughter. When she spent her allowance on a small toy for her baby cousin who was sick in the hospital, a delicate white flower bloomed, pure as a prayer. Rose began to understand her grandmother's secret. These weren't ordinary seeds that grew from water and sunlight. These were kindness seeds that grew from love and caring. Every time Rose did something thoughtful for someone else, another magical flower appeared in her garden. Word spread through the neighborhood about Rose's miraculous garden. People would walk by just to see the incredible blooms that seemed to appear overnight. But Rose noticed something even more wonderful than the flowers themselves. The more kindness she planted, the happier everyone around her seemed to become. Emma became one of Rose's best friends and helped other new students feel welcome. Mr. Chen started baking cookies for the whole neighborhood. Rose's classmates began sharing more and arguing less. It was as if Rose's acts of kindness were like seeds themselves, growing into more kindness wherever they landed. One day, Rose's mother found her in the garden, carefully tending to dozens of beautiful, impossible flowers. "How did you grow such amazing flowers, sweetheart?" her mother asked. Rose smiled and picked up her grandmother's seed packet, which never seemed to empty no matter how many seeds she planted. "Grandmother told me they were special seeds. I think they grow from love instead of water." Her mother knelt down beside her and touched one of the golden petals gently. "Your grandmother always said that kindness was the most powerful magic in the world. She said every act of love plants a seed that blooms into more love." "Do you think everyone has magic seeds like mine?" Rose asked. Her mother pulled her close for a hug. "Oh yes, my dear. Everyone has the ability to plant kindness and watch it grow into something beautiful. Some people just forget that they have this magic inside them." As autumn came, Rose worried that her magical flowers might wither like ordinary plants. But something wonderful happened instead. As each flower faded, it scattered tiny glowing seeds throughout the neighborhood. Soon, other children began noticing flowers blooming in their yards after they did kind things. Adults found blossoms appearing in their gardens after they helped their neighbors. The whole village began to bloom with kindness flowers, and with each flower that grew, hearts grew softer, smiles became brighter, and love spread like the sweetest fragrance on the wind. Rose kept her grandmother's original seed packet on her windowsill, but she had learned the most important lesson of all. She didn't need magic seeds to plant kindness. Every gentle word, every helping hand, every act of caring was a seed that would bloom into beauty in ways she might never even see. And you, dear listener, carry these same magic seeds within your heart. Every kind thought you think, every gentle word you speak, every caring action you take plants a seed of love in the world. Close your eyes and imagine your own garden of kindness, blooming with all the beautiful flowers of compassion you've planted throughout your life. Story 6. The Grumpy Mountain. High above the clouds, where the air was thin and cold, stood the loneliest mountain in the world. His name was Granite, and he was enormous, so tall that his peak was covered in snow even in summer, so wide that his shadow fell across 3 different valleys. But Granite was not happy being the biggest, strongest mountain around. In fact, Granite was the grumpiest mountain you could ever imagine. He spent his days complaining about everything. The weather was too hot or too cold, the snow was too heavy, the rain made him muddy, and the sun was too bright for his rocky eyes. "Bah!" Granite would rumble, his voice echoing through the valleys like distant thunder. "These pesky clouds keep bumping into me, and these annoying trees keep trying to grow on my slopes. Can't everyone just leave me alone?" All the creatures of the forest had learned to avoid the grumpy mountain. The deer found other paths around him. The bears built their dens far from his angry rumblings. And even the wind tried to blow quietly when it passed by his peaks. Granite liked it this way. "Good," he would grumble to himself. "I don't need anyone. I'm strong enough to stand alone. I'm tough as stone, and stone doesn't need friends." But deep down, In the very heart of his rocky core, Granite felt something he didn't understand, a hollow, empty feeling that made him feel cold even when the sun was shining brightly on his slopes. One spring morning, the tiniest visitor Granite had ever seen landed on his highest peak. It was a small yellow bird, no bigger than a pebble, with bright black eyes and the cheeriest song you ever heard. "Good morning, beautiful mountain," chirped the little bird. "What a gorgeous day to be alive. The sky is so blue, and you have the most wonderful view up here." "Go away," Granite rumbled, trying to shake the bird off his peak. "I don't like visitors, I don't like songs, and I especially don't like cheerful chatter first thing in the morning." But the little bird just laughed like silver bells ringing. "Oh my, you are a grumpy one, aren't you?" "That's okay. I've been grumpy before too. My name is Sunny. What's yours?" "I don't tell my name to annoying little birds," Granite grumbled, though something about the bird's friendliness made his rocky heart skip just a tiny bit. "That's all right," Sunny said, settling comfortably on Granite's peak as if she belonged there. "I'll just call you friend until you're ready to tell me your real name." Day after day, Sunny returned to Granite's peak. Every morning she would arrive with the sunrise and greet the mountain with genuine joy, as if seeing him was the best part of her day. "Good morning, friend. Isn't it wonderful how your snow sparkles like diamonds? And look how your forests are turning green. You're like a giant garden reaching toward the sky." Granite would grumble and complain, but secretly he began looking forward to Sunny's visits. No one had ever called him beautiful before. No one had ever seemed happy to see him. "Why do you keep coming back?" Granite asked one day, his voice a little less grumbly than usual. "I'm not nice to you. I complain all the time. I'm just a big, cranky pile of rocks." Sunny tilted her tiny head thoughtfully. "You know what I see when I look at you, friend? I see someone who's been strong for so long that he's forgotten how good it feels to be gentle. I see someone who's been alone for so long that he's forgotten how wonderful it is to have friends." Granite felt something strange happening inside his rocky chest, a warming, softening feeling that was completely new to him. "But I'm supposed to be tough," he said quietly. "Mountains are supposed to be strong and hard and unmovable." "Oh, you can be strong and kind," Sunny said, dancing from foot to foot on his peak. "Look at how you hold up all these trees and give homes to so many creatures. Look at how your streams bring fresh water to the valleys below. You're already taking care of everyone. You just do it so quietly that maybe you forgot you were being kind." For the first time in hundreds of years, Granite really looked at himself. He saw the families of foxes who lived in the caves along his slopes, the eagles who nested on his cliffs, the wildflowers that painted his meadows in brilliant colors. He felt the gentle streams that started from his melting snow, flowing down to feed the villages below. I never thought of it that way," Granite said softly. "And another thing," Sunny continued, preening her bright yellow feathers. "Being strong doesn't mean you can't have a soft heart. The strongest people I know are the gentlest ones too. They're strong enough to be kind, brave enough to care, tough enough to be tender." As the days passed, something beautiful began to happen to Granite. The more Sunny visited, the more his heart began to soften. Instead of grumbling at the trees, he started enjoying their green company. Instead of complaining about the snow, he began to see how it made him sparkle like a jewel. Instead of being annoyed by the animals, he started noticing how they made his slopes feel alive and full of purpose. One morning, Sunny arrived to find Granite humming. actually humming, a deep, rocky melody that harmonized beautifully with the wind. "Friend," Sunny chirped with delight, "you're singing. Your voice is beautiful, like gentle thunder mixed with whispered lullabies." "I feel different," Granite admitted, his voice warm as summer stone. "I feel happy, light, like someone lifted a heavy weight off my peaks." "That's what happens when you let your heart soften," Sunny explained, doing a little loop-de-loop in the air above his peak. "Hard hearts are heavy to carry around. Soft hearts are light as feathers. They make everything feel easier." From that day forward, Granite became known as the friendliest mountain in all the land. Travelers would journey for miles just to rest in his pleasant shadow and listen to his gentle humming. Animals made their homes happily on his slopes, knowing they were welcome. Children would climb his gentler paths and feel completely safe in his caring presence. And Sunny? She built her nest right on Granite's highest peak, where they could watch the sunrise together every morning and Granite could share his wonderful view with his very best friend. "What's your real name, friend?" Sunny asked one golden morning. Granite's deep voice was warm as sunlight on stone. "My name is Granite, but I like it better when you call me friend." Years passed, and people would often ask Granite how he had changed from the grumpiest mountain to the gentlest one. His answer was always the same. "I learned that having a soft heart doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong enough to love. And when someone believes you're good inside, even when you don't believe it yourself, something magical happens. Their love helps you remember who you really are." Even now, if you listen carefully when you pass a mountain, you might hear a deep, gentle humming carried on the wind, the sound of a heart that learned to be both strong and soft, both mighty and tender. Story 7. The Sharing Stream. In a meadow where wildflowers danced in the breeze and butterflies painted the air with their colorful wings, there bubbled a small, crystal-clear stream named Brook. Brook was young and worried about many things, but mostly, she worried about running out of water. Every morning, Brook would count her precious drops as they flowed over smooth pebbles and around mossy rocks. "I must be careful," she would whisper to herself. "If I give away too much of my water, I might disappear completely." So Brook became very stingy with her water. When the flowers along her banks looked thirsty, she would flow just a tiny trickle their way, barely enough to keep them alive. When the woodland animals came to drink, she would give them only small sips before pulling her water back. When the fish in her pools asked for deeper places to swim, Brook would make her pools shallow and narrow. "I'm being smart," Brook told herself. "I'm saving my water for important things." But strange things began to happen. The less Brook shared, the muddier she became. Without enough flow to carry away the fallen leaves and sediment, her waters grew cloudy and stagnant. The fish in her pools became sluggish and unhappy. The flowers along her banks began to wilt and turn brown. Even Brook herself began to feel tired and heavy. One day, an old willow tree who had been watching Brook's struggles bent her graceful branches down to touch the stream's surface. "Little Brook," the willow said in her whisper-soft voice, "why do you hold your water so tightly? You look so tired, and your flow seems so stuck." Brook sighed, creating tiny bubbles on her surface. "I'm trying to save my water, Grandmother Willow. If I give too much away, I'm afraid I'll have nothing left for myself." The ancient willow's branches swayed gently in the breeze. "Oh, dear child, I think you have forgotten something very important about streams. Come, let me tell you a secret about giving and receiving." Brooke listened carefully as Grandmother Willow shared her wisdom. You see, little one, streams are not like ponds or lakes that hold water in one place. Streams are meant to flow, to move, to share their gifts with everyone they meet. The more you flow, the stronger you become. The more you give, the more you receive from the springs that feed you. But what if I run out? Brooke asked, her voice trembling with fear. Look up toward the mountains, Grandmother Willow said gently. See those high springs, those melting snows, those gathering rain clouds. They are constantly sending new water to feed you, but their gifts can only reach you if you keep flowing. When you try to hold on to your water, you block the natural flow that brings you fresh, clean streams from above. Brooke had never thought about it this way before. She looked up toward the mountains and saw, for the first time, the countless sources of water that were trying to reach her. Underground springs, trickling rainfall, morning dew, melting frost. The more generously you share your water, the willow continued, the more space you create for new water to flow into you. Nature rewards generous streams with abundance. That very day, Brooke decided to try an experiment. When a family of deer came to drink, instead of giving them just tiny sips, she opened her flow generously, creating a wide, shallow drinking spot where they could wade and splash and drink their fill. Something magical happened immediately. As Brooke gave more freely, she felt her connection to the mountain springs grow stronger. Fresh, clean water began flowing into her from sources she hadn't even noticed before. Encouraged, Brooke continued her experiment. She deepened her pools for the fish, who began swimming with joy and energy. She sent gentle streams to the thirsty wildflowers, who bloomed more brilliantly than ever before. She created little waterfalls and eddies just for the pure pleasure of sharing her music with anyone who wanted to listen. With each generous act, Brooke felt herself becoming stronger, clearer, more vibrant. Her waters ran crystal pure, her song grew more melodious, and her flow became steady and sure. The woodland creatures began to gather along Brooke's banks, drawn by her generous spirit and abundant flow. Families of rabbits made their homes nearby, knowing there would always be fresh water. Birds built nests in the trees that grew lush and green from Brooke's generous watering. Even the butterflies seemed to dance more joyfully above her sparkling surface. One morning, Brooke realized something wonderful. She had become the most abundant stream in the entire forest. Her waters ran deeper and clearer than ever before, fed by dozens of small springs that had opened up to support her generous flow. Grandmother Willow, Brooke called to her wise friend, I understand now. The more I share, the more I have to share. Giving doesn't make me smaller. It makes me bigger. The old willow rustled her leaves in approval. Now you understand one of nature's most beautiful secrets, dear Brooke. When we give from our hearts, we create space for more gifts to flow into our lives. The universe loves generous spirits and always finds ways to refill those who share freely. Brooke looked at the thriving ecosystem that had grown around her generous flow. The healthy trees, the happy animals, the brilliant flowers, the singing birds. She realized that by sharing her gifts, she hadn't lost anything at all. Instead, she had become part of something much bigger and more beautiful than she could ever be alone. And there's something else, Grandmother Willow added with a gentle smile in her voice. The joy you feel when you help others, when you see the flowers bloom because of your water, when you watch the animals drink happily from your flow, that joy flows back into you and makes you even more abundant than before. Brooke gurgled with happiness, creating the most musical sound she had ever made. It was true. Every time she helped someone else flourish, she felt a warm, bright feeling that seemed to add sparkle to her very essence. From that day forward, Brooke became known throughout the forest as the stream of abundance. Animals would travel from far away to drink from her generous flow. Plants would send their roots toward her, knowing she would share her nourishment freely. And Brooke, she flowed on joyfully, knowing that the more love she gave, the more love flowed back to her from the infinite springs of the universe. Years later, when young streams would ask Brooke for advice about managing their flow, she would always say the same thing. Don't worry about running out of love to give. The more you share your gifts with others, the more the universe shares its gifts with you. Giving is not about losing. It's about becoming part of the endless flow of abundance that connects all living things. And in her generous flowing, Brooke discovered the most beautiful truth of all. When we give freely from our hearts, we don't become empty. We become full beyond measure. Story 8. The Lost Star's Journey Home. High above the earth, in the vast darkness of space where silence is deeper than the deepest ocean, there lived a little star named Stella. She was the youngest star in her constellation, and her light was small but pure, a tiny spark of silver fire in the endless night. For as long as Stella could remember, she had belonged to the constellation of the Great Swan, along with 7 other stars who were like family to her. Every night they would shine together in perfect harmony, their combined light creating the beautiful shape of a swan flying across the heavens. But one night, something terrible happened. A cosmic wind, the kind that blows between galaxies, caught little Stella and swept her far, far away from her constellation family. She tumbled through space like a dandelion seed on an earthly breeze, spinning and turning until she no longer knew which direction was home. When Stella finally stopped tumbling, she found herself alone in a part of the sky she had never seen before. No matter which way she looked, she couldn't see her constellation family. She couldn't even see the familiar patterns of other star groups she had known since she was just a tiny sparkle. "Hello," Stella called out, her voice barely a whisper in the vast emptiness. "Can anyone hear me? I'm lost and I want to go home." But space is enormous, and Stella's small voice seemed to disappear into the darkness without an echo. For the first time in her young life, Stella felt afraid. She was used to being surrounded by her star family, used to knowing exactly where she belonged. Now she was completely alone, floating in unfamiliar territory with no idea how to find her way back. "Maybe I'll never see my family again," Stella worried, her light flickering dimly. "Maybe I'll drift here forever, all by myself." Just when Stella's light was growing so dim with sadness that she almost went out entirely, she heard a gentle voice nearby. "Little star, why does your light seem so sad?" Stella looked around and saw she was near a beautiful nebula, a cloud of cosmic dust and gas that swirled in colors of pink and purple and gold. The voice was coming from the nebula itself, ancient and kind. "I'm lost," Stella said, her voice trembling. "I got separated from my constellation family, and now I don't know how to get home. I don't even know which direction to look." The nebula's colors swirled thoughtfully. "I have been here for millions of years, little one, and I have seen many lost stars find their way home, but they never make the journey alone. Would you like me to help you?" Stella's light brightened just a little with hope. "You would help me? But you don't even know me." "All stars are family," the nebula said warmly. We are all made of the same cosmic dust, all children of the same universe. Of course, I'll help you find your way home. The nebula sent out gentle streams of glowing gas, like cosmic messengers, to other nebulas throughout the galaxy. Help pass along a message, the nebula asked. There's a young star here who needs to find her way back to the Great Swan constellation. Before long, Stella heard voices calling from all directions. Other nebulas, passing comets, even planets with their moons were sharing her message across the vast reaches of space. I think I saw the Great Swan constellation, called a cheerful comet as it streaked past. It's about 1,000 light years toward the spinning galaxy's edge. I can guide you partway there, offered a wise old planet with rings like Saturn's. I'm heading in that direction, and my gravitational field can give you a gentle push along the way. And when you get closer, added a friendly asteroid, I know some meteor showers that pass right by that area. They can help you with the final part of your journey. Stella couldn't believe it. All these celestial beings, most of whom she had never met before, were offering to help her find her way home. But why? She asked in wonder. Why would you all help me when I have nothing to give you in return? The ancient nebula's voice was like a cosmic hug. Little star, kindness doesn't need a reason. When someone needs help, help is what the universe gives. That's how we all stay connected across the vastness of space. And so began Stella's journey home, supported by friends she had never expected to find. The comet carried her part of the way, its tail streaming behind them like a highway of light. The ringed planet used its gravity to gently slingshot her toward her destination, spinning her playfully as she passed. The meteor shower guided her through a particularly tricky area where space dust might have confused her direction. Along the way, Stella met many other cosmic travelers. A lonely moon showed her the most beautiful crater gardens where cosmic flowers bloomed in eternal silence. A group of playful asteroids taught her games that could only be played in zero gravity. An elderly quasar shared stories of the early days of the universe, when everything was young and the first stars were just learning how to shine. Each friend Stella met made her journey more wonderful, but more importantly, each one reminded her that she was never truly alone. The universe was full of kind beings who would help a lost star find her way home. Finally, after what felt like the longest journey of her young life, Stella saw something that made her light flare with joy. The familiar pattern of her constellation family, the 7 bright stars that formed the Great Swan. Stella, her star family called out in voices like cosmic music. We've been searching for you everywhere. We're so glad you're home. As Stella settled back into her place in the constellation, completing the beautiful swan shape once again, she felt surrounded by love and belonging. But she also felt something new, a deep gratitude for all the friends who had helped her along the way, and a new understanding of how connected everything in the universe truly was. Thank you, Stella whispered into the cosmic wind, sending her message to all the friends who had helped her. Thank you for showing me that even in the vastness of space, no one travels alone when they need help finding their way home. From that night forward, whenever Stella saw a lost comet or a wandering asteroid, she would remember her own journey and offer to help. She learned that the most beautiful thing about finding your place in the universe is using that security to help others find theirs. And sometimes, on very clear nights when the cosmic wind is still, you can see the Great Swan constellation shining extra brightly, especially the smallest star in the pattern, whose light carries the warm glow of gratitude and the joy of knowing that in this vast, beautiful universe, we all belong somewhere, and help always comes to those who need it most. The universe has a way of bringing us home, dear listener, and filling our journey with friends we never expected to find. Part 3. Stories of Courage and Inner Strength. Now we journey deeper into the night, dear listener, where stories of courage await. These are tales that remind us that even the smallest among us carries great strength, and that true bravery comes from believing in the light that shines within. Story 9. The Tiny Seed's Big Dream. In a corner of a community garden, tucked between towering tomato plants and sprawling pumpkin vines, lay the tiniest seed anyone had ever seen. Her name was Hope, and she was no bigger than a freckle, no heavier than a whisper. All around Hope grew magnificent plants. There was Big Ben the sunflower, who stood 10 feet tall with a face as wide as a dinner plate. There was Rosalind the rose bush, whose blooms were so beautiful that people came from miles away just to smell their perfume. There was Oliver the oak sapling, who was already 3 feet tall and growing stronger every day. Hope looked up at these garden giants and felt very small indeed. "I'll never be anything special," Hope whispered to herself. "Look at me. I'm so tiny that the gardener didn't even notice when he accidentally dropped me here. I don't even know what kind of plant I'm supposed to become." The other plants tried to encourage her. "Every seed has potential," said Rosalind kindly. "You just need to have faith in yourself." "Size doesn't matter," rumbled Big Ben in his deep, cheerful voice. "I started as a seed no bigger than you." But Hope didn't believe them. She felt too small, too uncertain, too different from all the confident plants around her. Days passed, and Hope remained unopened, too afraid to begin growing. She watched as other seeds in the garden sprouted eagerly, sending out brave little shoots toward the sun. But Hope stayed curled up tight inside her seed coat, afraid of what she might become, or worse, afraid of what she might not become. One morning, a little girl named Maya visited the garden with her grandmother. Maya was about 7 years old, with curious eyes and dirt under her fingernails from helping in the garden. "Grandma," Maya said, kneeling down near Hope's corner, "I think there's a seed here that hasn't started growing yet." Hope tried to make herself even smaller, hoping Maya wouldn't notice her. But Maya had sharp eyes. She gently brushed away some soil, and there was Hope, tiny and brown and still tightly closed. "Why aren't you growing, little seed?" Maya asked softly. "Are you scared?" Hope was so surprised to be spoken to directly that she forgot to stay quiet. "Yes," she whispered, so softly that only Maya could hear. "I'm afraid I won't be special like the other plants. What if I grow up to be ugly or useless? What if I disappoint everyone?" Maya's grandmother knelt down beside her granddaughter, her old knees creaking slightly. She had been gardening for 70 years, and her hands were wise with soil and seasons. "Little seed," the grandmother said in a voice like warm honey, "I can see that you're a sunflower seed, just like Big Ben over there. But you're a special variety. You're going to be something wonderful that this garden has never seen before." "How do you know?" Hope asked, her voice trembling with a tiny spark of curiosity. "Because," the grandmother said, cupping her weathered hands protectively around Hope, "I planted you myself last spring. You're not just any sunflower seed. You're a variety called Little Sunshine. You'll grow to be small and perfect, with dozens of bright golden flowers instead of one big one. You're going to bring more joy to this garden than you can imagine." Hope felt something stir inside her seed coat, the first flutter of excitement she had felt since arriving in the garden. "But what if I can't do it?" Hope whispered. "What if I try to grow and fail?" Maya bent down close to Hope and whispered like she was sharing the most important secret in the world. "My grandma taught me that plants don't fail at growing. They just grow exactly the way they're meant to, one tiny bit at a time. You don't have to become huge tomorrow. You just have to be brave enough to take the first tiny step." "What would that first step be?" Hope asked. "Just crack open your seed coat a tiny bit," Maya said gently. "Just enough to peek out at the world, that's all. Just one brave peek." Hope thought about this. She had been so focused on the scary idea of becoming a full-grown plant that she had forgotten about all the small steps in between. Maybe she didn't have to figure out everything at once. Maybe she just had to be brave enough for one tiny moment. Very slowly, very carefully, Hope began to crack open her seed coat. Just a tiny bit, just enough to let in a sliver of light and a breath of fresh air. The feeling was amazing. The world was full of gentle sounds, bees humming, leaves rustling, Maya's grandmother humming a soft tune. The soil smelled rich and welcoming, and the tiny bit of sunlight that touched Hope's opening felt warm and encouraging. "Oh," Hope gasped, "it's beautiful out here." "Keep going," Maya encouraged. "Just one more tiny step. Send out one little root just to see how it feels." Hope sent out the tiniest white root, no thicker than a thread. It felt wonderful to stretch, to reach, to begin the ancient dance of growing. The soil welcomed her root like an old friend. "Now, maybe one tiny green shoot toward the light?" Maya's grandmother suggested. Hope surprised herself by feeling excited instead of scared. She sent up the smallest green shoot, barely visible above the soil. But oh, the feeling of reaching toward the sunlight was like nothing she had ever experienced. Day by day, Hope continued growing. Each step was small, but each step felt like a victory. Maya visited every morning, cheering Hope on and celebrating each new leaf, each inch of height, each sign of progress. "Look how strong you're getting," Maya would say. "Look how your leaves are reaching for the sun. You're becoming exactly who you're meant to be." As the weeks passed, something magical happened. Hope began to grow not one large sunflower, but dozens and dozens of small, perfect golden blooms. Each flower was no bigger than a silver dollar, but they covered Hope from top to bottom like a coat of sunshine. The other plants in the garden gasped in wonder. Hope's flowers were unlike anything they had ever seen. Not just beautiful, but joyful in a way that made everyone who looked at them smile. "Hope," called Big Ben from his towering height. "You're the most beautiful sunflower I've ever seen. You're like a celebration that decided to become a plant." "I told you size doesn't determine beauty," added Rosalind, whose roses seemed less red and more golden in the light of Hope's many blooms. But the most wonderful moment came when Maya brought her entire family to see Hope in full bloom. Maya's little brother, who had been sad because he was starting a new school, took one look at Hope and burst into laughter. "She's like a happiness flower," he said. "She makes me feel like everything will be okay." Hope felt a warmth that had nothing to do with sunlight spreading through all her petals. She had spent so much time worrying about not being special that she had almost missed becoming exactly what the world needed. A small, joyful presence that could brighten anyone's day. Maya's grandmother knelt down beside Hope one last time that season. "You see, little one? You didn't need to be the biggest or the tallest to be important. You just needed to be brave enough to become yourself. The world was waiting for exactly the kind of light that only you could bring." As autumn came and Hope's flowers began to set seeds for next year's garden, she looked at the hundreds of tiny new seeds she had created, each one carrying the potential for its own small miracle. "Don't be afraid," Hope whispered to her seeds as they prepared to scatter on the autumn wind. "You don't have to know everything about who you'll become. You just have to be brave enough to take the first small step. The world is waiting for exactly the kind of magic that only you can bring. And you, dear listener, carry within you that same potential for your own special kind of blooming. You don't need to become someone else's version of wonderful. You just need to be brave enough to become beautifully, uniquely yourself, one small step at a time." Encouraging pause. Story 10. The Brave Little Candle. In a cozy candle shop on a quiet street where the lamplight cast dancing shadows through the windows, there lived a little candle named Flicker. She was the smallest candle in the entire shop, no taller than your thumb, made of creamy white wax with the tiniest wick you ever did see. All around Flicker stood impressive candles of every size and color. There was Magnus the pillar candle, thick as a tree trunk and tall as a book. There was Elegant the taper candle, slender and graceful with a wick that seemed to touch the ceiling. There were scented candles that filled the whole shop with the fragrance of lavender or vanilla or fresh rain. Flicker felt very ordinary next to all these magnificent candles. Her wax was plain white with no fancy colors or swirls. She had no beautiful scent to offer. Her wick was so small that she wondered if she could even make a proper flame. "I don't think anyone will ever want to buy me," Flicker said sadly to herself. "What could someone as small as me possibly do that? These big, beautiful candles can't do better?" The other candles tried to cheer her up. "Size isn't everything," said Elegant kindly. "It's the light that matters, not how big the candle is." "Every flame is important," rumbled Magnus in his deep, warm voice. "Even the smallest light can make a difference." But Flicker didn't believe them. Day after day, she watched customers come into the shop and choose the larger, fancier candles. No one even seemed to notice her tucked away on the bottom shelf behind a group of colorful birthday candles. One evening, just as the shopkeeper was closing up, a young woman hurried in, looking very worried. "Please," the woman said breathlessly, "I need a candle. There's been a power outage in my neighborhood, and my little daughter is afraid of the dark. Do you have something small and gentle? She gets scared by big flames, but she needs just a little light to feel safe." The shopkeeper looked around the store thoughtfully. The pillar candles would be too big and bright for a frightened child. The scented candles might be overwhelming. The tall taper candles might be too formal and serious. Then the shopkeeper's eyes fell on Flicker, sitting quietly on her bottom shelf. "I think I have exactly what you need," the shopkeeper said with a smile, gently picking up Flicker. "This little candle gives the most perfect gentle light, bright enough to chase away the darkness, but soft enough to be comforting." Flicker couldn't believe it. Someone actually wanted her. She felt a warm glow of happiness spread through her wax even before she was lit. The young woman looked at Flicker doubtfully. "Are you sure? She's so small. Will she really be bright enough?" "Trust me," the shopkeeper said with a knowing smile. "Sometimes the smallest lights shine the brightest when they're needed most." The woman bought Flicker and carried her carefully through the dark streets to a small apartment where a little girl was huddled under blankets, too scared to sleep without any lights. "Mama," the little girl called when she heard her mother come in. "I don't like the dark. It feels too big and scary." "I brought you something special, Emma," her mother said gently, setting Flicker on the nightstand beside the child's bed. "This is a very brave little candle who's going to keep you company tonight." When Flicker's wick was lit for the very first time, something magical happened. Her small flame didn't just give off light, it gave off comfort. The gentle glow seemed to wrap around the little girl like a warm hug, pushing back the scary shadows and filling the room with a feeling of safety and peace. "Oh," Emma whispered in wonder. "She's perfect. She's not too bright and not too dim. She's just right for keeping the scary feelings away." Flicker felt proud in a way she had never experienced before. Her small flame danced gently, casting soft, friendly shadows that looked like butterflies on the walls instead of monsters. "Thank you, little candle," Emma said softly, settling into her pillow. "I'm not scared anymore. Your light makes everything feel safe." As Emma drifted off to sleep, Flicker realized something amazing. She had been worried about being too small, but her size was actually her superpower. She was exactly the right brightness for a frightened child. Not overwhelming, not too much, but just enough to turn darkness into comfort. Night after night, Flicker continued to burn by Emma's bedside. During the day when she wasn't lit, Emma would talk to her like a friend. "When I grow up," Emma told Flicker one afternoon, "I want to be like you. I want to help people feel safe and not scared." Flicker glowed with happiness even though she wasn't burning. She had found her purpose, not to be the biggest or fanciest candle, but to be exactly what was needed when someone was afraid. Word spread through the neighborhood about the perfect little nightlight candle. Soon, other parents with scared children were asking the shopkeeper for candles like that gentle one. The shopkeeper began ordering more small candles just like Flicker. One day, Flicker met another small candle who had just arrived at the shop. "I'm worried I'm too little to be useful," the new candle said nervously. Flicker's flame danced with confidence. "Let me tell you a secret," she said warmly. "Being small doesn't mean being less important. It means being exactly the right size for exactly the right job. Somewhere out there is someone who needs precisely the kind of light that only you can give." "But what if no one notices me?" the new candle asked. "Someone will," Flicker promised. "Because when you shine your own special light, the people who need exactly that light will find you. You don't need to be like anyone else. You just need to burn as brightly and truly as only you can." As the weeks passed, Flicker watched new small candles come and go, each one finding their perfect person to comfort. Some went to college students studying late at night who needed gentle light that wouldn't strain their eyes. Some went to elderly people who wanted just a little warm glow for their evening reading. Some went to other children who, like Emma, needed a friend to chase away the darkness. Each small candle discovered the same truth that Flicker had learned. They weren't too small to make a difference. They were exactly the right size to make the perfect difference for someone who needed them. One evening, as Emma was getting older and no longer needed a nightlight, she hugged Flicker's holder gently. "Thank you for teaching me to be brave in the dark," Emma said. "Now I know that even small lights can chase away big fears. When I grow up, I want to be a small light that helps other people too." Flicker's flame danced with joy and pride. She had done more than light up a room. She had helped light up a whole life with courage and confidence. And you, dear listener, carry within you that same brave little flame. You might think your light is too small to matter, but somewhere in this big world, there are people who need exactly the kind of brightness that only you can bring. Your light doesn't need to fill a stadium. It just needs to shine true and warm for the hearts that need your particular kind of comfort. Story 11. The Worried Rabbit and the Calm Turtle. In a peaceful meadow where daisies nodded in the gentle breeze and a crystal brook babbled soft songs to the sky, there lived a rabbit named Rusher who could never, ever slow down. From the moment Rusher woke up each morning, his day was a blur of hurried activity. He would dash to the clover patch for breakfast, gobble his food without tasting it, then race to visit friends, hop quickly to the garden for lunch, sprint to the afternoon exercise field, and zoom back home for dinner, all while his mind raced even faster than his feet. Got to hurry, Rusher would mutter to himself as he bounded through the meadow. So much to do, so little time, can't waste a single moment. But even though Rusher was always rushing, he never seemed to get anywhere important. He was always worried about being late, always anxious about what he might be missing, always feeling like he was running behind some invisible schedule that he could never quite catch up to. One sunny afternoon, while dashing across the meadow at his usual breakneck speed, Rusher nearly tripped over something in his path. He skidded to a stop and found himself nose to nose with the most unusual creature he had ever encountered. It was a turtle, moving so slowly across the grass that Rusher had to watch carefully just to see that she was moving at all. The turtle's shell was a beautiful pattern of green and gold, weathered and wise-looking, and her ancient eyes held a calmness that Rusher had never seen before. "Oh, sorry," Rusher panted, his heart racing from his near collision. "I didn't see you there. You're moving so slowly," the turtle finished with a gentle smile. "Yes, I suppose I am. My name is Patience. What's your hurry, young rabbit?" "I'm Rusher, and I'm late," Rusher said, hopping from foot to foot with nervous energy. "I'm supposed to be at the berry bush by now, and then I have to visit the pond, and after that I promise to check on the flower garden. And then—" "Late for what?" Patience asked kindly, settling herself more comfortably on the warm grass. Rusher paused, his mouth open to give his usual frantic answer, but suddenly he couldn't think of one. "Well, I mean, late for everything. If I slow down, I might miss something important." Patience's eyes twinkled with understanding. "I see. And in all this rushing around, what have you noticed today? What beautiful things have you seen in this lovely meadow?" Rusher blinked rapidly, trying to think. "Beautiful things? I've been very busy. I don't really have time to notice things. I have to keep moving." "Ah," Patience said softly. "Well, would you mind if I showed you something? It will only take a moment." Rusher fidgeted impatiently. "I really should keep going." "Just sit beside me for 1 minute," Patience said gently. "I promise you won't miss anything important. In fact, you might discover something wonderful." Something in the turtle's calm voice made Rusher stop hopping. Almost against his will, he found himself sitting down next to Patience on the soft grass. "Now," Patience said quietly, "instead of thinking about where you need to go next, just notice where you are right now. What do you hear?" Rusher started to say he didn't have time for listening, but then he actually heard something. The brook was making the most beautiful music as it flowed over smooth stones. Birds were singing a harmony that seemed to dance with the water's melody. The breeze was whispering through the grass like a gentle lullaby. I never noticed the meadow had music before," Rusher said in wonder. "It's always been here," Patience said with a smile. "Now, what do you smell?" Rusher sniffed the air and gasped. There were so many wonderful scents. Sweet wildflowers, fresh grass after morning dew, the earthy richness of soil, and something that smelled like honey and sunshine mixed together. It smells like happiness, Rusher said softly. And what do you see when you really look, instead of just glancing while you run? For the first time in his life, Rusher actually really looked, at the meadow around him. What he saw took his breath away. The daisies weren't just white flowers. They were tiny works of art, each petal perfectly shaped, each yellow center like a miniature sun. The grass wasn't just green, it was 1,000 different shades of emerald and jade and forest, each blade dancing in the breeze like nature's own celebration. "It's beautiful," Rusher whispered. "It's the most beautiful place I've ever seen. But I've lived here my whole life. Why am I just noticing this now?" Patience's voice was warm as summer sunshine. "Because, my dear Rusher, beauty can only be seen by eyes that have time to look. Wonder can only be felt by hearts that are still long enough to receive it. When we rush through life, we miss the very things that make life worth living." Rusher felt something amazing happening inside his chest. The tight, anxious feeling that he always carried began to loosen. His racing heart slowed to a gentle rhythm that matched the peaceful sounds of the meadow. "But what if I miss something important by slowing down?" Rusher asked, though his voice was calmer now. "What could be more important than this?" Patience asked, gesturing with one ancient foot toward the beautiful world around them. "What could be more valuable than actually experiencing the life you're living, instead of racing through it so fast that it becomes a blur?" Rusher thought about all the days he had spent rushing from place to place, all the meals he had eaten without tasting, all the friends he had visited without really listening to, all the sunsets he had missed because he was already thinking about tomorrow. "I think," Rusher said slowly, "I've been so worried about getting somewhere that I forgot to be where I was." "That's the wisest thing you've said all day," Patience chuckled. "And now that you know this secret, you can choose differently. You can move through your day like a gentle breeze instead of a tornado, covering all the same ground, but experiencing everything along the way." From that day forward, Rusher learned to live differently. He still visited the berry bush and the pond and the flower garden, but he moved through the meadow at a pace that let him truly see, hear, smell, and feel the world around him. He discovered that moving slowly didn't make him late. It made him present. And being present, he found, was the most important place he could ever be. Sometimes other young rabbits would see Rusher moving at his new peaceful pace and ask if something was wrong. "Nothing's wrong," Rusher would tell them with a contented smile. "Everything's just right." I learned that life isn't about getting to the next moment as fast as possible. It's about fully living the moment you're in right now. And whenever Rusher saw Patience making her slow, wise way across the meadow, he would sit with her for a while, sharing the peaceful silence and remembering that the most important journey isn't to somewhere else. It's deeper into the beautiful present moment where life is actually happening. Story 12. The Storm Cloud's Gift. High above the earth, where the air is thin and the winds dance freely between heaven and ground, drifted a young storm cloud named Tempest. Unlike the cheerful white clouds that floated peacefully across blue skies, Tempest was dark and heavy, filled with rain and thunder and flashes of lightning. All the other clouds avoided Tempest. The fluffy cumulus clouds would quickly float away whenever they saw him approaching. The wispy cirrus clouds would whisper among themselves about how scary and angry Tempest looked. Even the other storm clouds seemed more confident and sure of their purpose than Tempest felt. "Why am I so different?" Tempest would rumble to himself, his voice echoing like distant thunder. "Why can't I be light and happy like the other clouds? Why do I have to carry all this darkness inside me?" Tempest tried very hard to be like the sunny clouds. He would puff himself up, trying to look white and cheerful, but the rain inside him would make him gray. He would try to float peacefully, but the electrical energy in his core would crackle with restless lightning. He would attempt to drift quietly across the sky, but the thunder in his belly would rumble and roll, announcing his presence to everyone below. "I'm no good at being a cloud," Tempest said sadly. "I just make noise and darkness wherever I go. The world would probably be better off without me." One day, as Tempest was drifting sadly across the sky, he found himself above a valley that looked very different from the green, happy places he usually saw. This valley was brown and dry, with drooping flowers, yellowed grass, and trees whose leaves hung limp and lifeless. Even the little stream that ran through the valley was barely a trickle. Down in the valley, Tempest could see farmers standing in their fields, looking up at the sky with worried faces. Children played listlessly in dusty yards. Gardens that should have been green and growing were withered and sad. "Oh no," Tempest thought. "This place is as sad and gray as I am. I should probably move along before I make things worse." But just as Tempest was about to drift away, he heard something that made him pause. It was the voice of a little girl, standing in her family's struggling garden with her grandfather. "Grandpa," the little girl said, "why won't the flowers grow anymore? Why does everything look so tired?" Her grandfather knelt down and touched the dry soil gently. "The earth is thirsty, little one. We haven't had rain in many weeks. All the plants and animals are waiting for a storm cloud to come and share some water with us." "But what if the storm cloud is scary?" the little girl asked. "What if it's loud and dark and frightening?" Her grandfather smiled and put his arm around her. "Sometimes, my dear, the things that seem scary are actually bringing us exactly what we need most. Storm clouds may be loud and dark, but they carry the most precious gift of all, the rain that helps everything grow." Tempest couldn't believe what he was hearing. Could it be true? Could his darkness, his thunder, his lightning actually be helpful? As if in answer to his thoughts, Tempest felt something shift inside him. All the rain he had been carrying, all the electrical energy that made him restless, all the thunder that rumbled in his core. Suddenly it didn't feel like a burden anymore. It felt like a gift. "Maybe," Tempest whispered to himself, "I'm not supposed to be like the other clouds. Maybe I'm supposed to be exactly what I am." With a deep rumble of determination, Tempest positioned himself directly over the thirsty valley. For the first time in his life, he didn't try to hold back his true nature. He let his darkness spread across the sky, bringing blessed shade to the sun-scorched earth below. He let his thunder roll freely, announcing to every living thing in the valley that relief was coming. He allowed his lightning to dance and crackle, lighting up the sky with electrical beauty. And then, with the greatest joy he had ever felt, Tempest released his rain. It came down in gentle drops at first, then in a steady, nourishing shower that soaked into the grateful earth. The dusty ground drank deeply. The drooping flowers lifted their faces to catch the precious water. The yellowed grass began to green before Tempest's very eyes. Down in the valley, people came out of their houses with their arms stretched wide, laughing and dancing in Tempest's rain. Children splashed in the puddles he created. Farmers smiled as their crops drank deeply from his gift. "Thank you," the little girl called up to Tempest, spinning in circles with pure joy. "Thank you, beautiful storm cloud, for bringing us exactly what we needed." Beautiful? Tempest had never been called beautiful before, but looking down at the transformation he had created, the green returning to the grass, the flowers blooming, the stream bubbling with new life, he began to understand that his kind of beauty was different from the sunny clouds, but no less important. As evening came and Tempest's rain tapered off to a gentle mist, something magical happened. The setting sun broke through his clearing clouds, creating the most spectacular rainbow the valley had ever seen, a bridge of color that seemed to stretch from earth to heaven. "You see?" called an ancient voice from above. Tempest looked up to see old Nimbus, the wisest cloud in the sky, drifting toward him with approval, twinkling in his misty form. "Every cloud has their season, young Tempest," old Nimbus said kindly. "The sunny clouds bring warmth and light when the world needs comfort. But you bring the rain that makes life possible. Without storm clouds like you, nothing would grow, nothing would be washed clean, nothing would be renewed." Tempest felt a warm glow spread through his stormy heart. "So it's okay that I'm different? It's okay that I'm dark and loud and full of thunder?" "It's not just okay," old Nimbus replied with a smile in his voice. "It's necessary. The world needs your rain just as much as it needs sunshine. Your thunder announces important changes coming. Your lightning adds drama and power to the sky. You don't need to apologize for being exactly what you are." From that day forward, Tempest learned to embrace his stormy nature. He discovered that his moods, even his darkest, most thunderous ones, all had their place and purpose. When he felt heavy with rain, he knew it meant he was ready to nourish something that was thirsty. When he felt crackling with electrical energy, he understood it was time to bring excitement and change. When his thunder rumbled, he realized he was announcing that transformation was coming. The other clouds began to see Tempest differently too. Instead of avoiding him, they would greet him with respect and gratitude, knowing that his storms brought balance to their sunshine. And sometimes, when young clouds would worry about their own difficult emotions, their own darkness or noise or restless energy, Tempest would remind them gently, "Every feeling has its season and its purpose. Don't try to be like anyone else. The world needs exactly the kind of weather that only you can bring." Dear listener, you too carry within you all kinds of weather, sunny days and stormy ones, gentle breezes and strong winds. Each feeling you have, even the difficult ones, serves a purpose in the ecosystem of your heart. Your sadness waters the seeds of compassion. Your anger clears away what needs to change. Your fear protects what you value most. All your emotions are part of the beautiful, complex weather system that makes you uniquely and perfectly you. Part 4. Stories of Connection and Harmony. As our peaceful journey continues deeper into the night, we come now to stories of connection. Tales that remind us how beautifully we all belong to each other, how every voice adds something precious to the great symphony of life. Story 13. The Orchestra of Nature. Deep in an ancient forest where the trees grew so tall they seemed to touch the stars, there lived many different creatures who had never quite figured out how to get along. Each animal had their own special sound, but instead of creating beautiful music together, the forest was filled with a jumbled cacophony of noise. In the morning, Rooster would crow his wake-up call at the top of his lungs. Cock-a-doodle-doo, right when Owl was trying to sleep after her night watch. This would startle Rabbit, who would thump his foot in alarm, which would set off Squirrel's chattering, which would make Woodpecker start drumming nervously on tree trunks, which would cause Bear to grumble loudly about all the racket. None of the animals seemed to appreciate anyone else's sounds. Rooster thought Owl's hooting was spooky and unnecessary. Owl found Rooster's crowing crude and jarring. Rabbit believed everyone was too loud. Squirrel chattered criticism about everyone's timing. Woodpecker drummed angrily whenever others made noise during his practice. And Bear just wanted everyone to be quiet so he could think. "This forest is impossible," Bear would growl. "Everyone makes such terrible noise. Why can't we all just be silent?" "My crowing is important," Rooster would protest. "How else will everyone know when morning comes?" "My hooting is essential," Owl would hoot back. "Night sounds are just as important as day sounds." "Well, my foot thumping warns everyone of danger," Rabbit would add defensively. And so it went, day after day. Each animal convinced that their own sounds were necessary and important, but everyone else's sounds were just annoying noise. One evening, as the sunset painted the forest in shades of gold and amber, a very old and wise creature made her way slowly through the trees. It was Grandmother Turtle, who was so ancient that she remembered when the forest was just a handful of saplings. Her shell was covered in soft moss, and her eyes held the wisdom of countless seasons. "My dear noisy friends," Grandmother Turtle called out in her gentle, creaky voice, "I have been listening to your forest for many years, and I think I know what the problem is." All the animals gathered around her with curiosity. Even Bear, who rarely came out of his cave for anything, ambled over to hear what she had to say. "The problem," Grandmother Turtle continued slowly, "is not that you make sounds. The problem is that you're all trying to make music by yourselves instead of making music together." "Music?" scoffed Woodpecker. "We're not making music. We're just making our sounds. Important sounds that everyone else seems to find annoying." "Ah," Grandmother Turtle smiled, "but what is music if not different sounds that find a way to work together in harmony?" She settled herself comfortably on a soft patch of moss. "Let me tell you what I hear when I really listen to your forest. Rooster, your morning crow is like a trumpet announcing the dawn, strong and clear and full of purpose. Owl, your nighttime hooting is like a gentle flute, mysterious and calming, perfect for evening's peaceful songs." Rooster and Owl looked at each other with surprise. They had never thought of their sounds as musical instruments before. "And Rabbit," Grandmother Turtle continued, "your foot thumping is like a drum, keeping rhythm and warning of important changes. Squirrel, your chattering is like castanets, quick and bright and full of energy. Woodpecker, your drumming on the trees is like percussion that could tie everyone's rhythm together." The animals began to listen to each other differently, hearing instruments instead of just noise. "And Bear," Grandmother Turtle said with a twinkle in her ancient eyes, "your deep, rumbly voice is like the bass note that could give depth and richness to everyone else's music." "But how could we ever make music together?" asked Owl. "We all make our sounds at different times, for different reasons." "What if," Grandmother Turtle suggested gently, "instead of making your sounds whenever you feel like it, you learn to listen to each other and find moments when your sounds could blend together beautifully?" "You mean, like taking turns?" asked Rabbit. "More like dancing together." Grandmother Turtle replied. In a dance, everyone moves differently, but they all move to the same rhythm. In music, everyone plays different notes, but they all play in harmony with each other. The next morning, the animals decided to try Grandmother Turtle's idea. Instead of crowing immediately when he woke up, Rooster listened for a moment to the forest's morning sounds. He heard a gentle breeze rustling through leaves, creating a soft, whispering rhythm. "I'll crow in harmony with the wind," Rooster decided. And when he crowed, cock-a-doodle-doo, he made it match the rhythm of the rustling leaves. Somehow, it sounded less jarring and more like music. Woodpecker, who had been practicing his morning drumming, heard Rooster's rhythmic crowing and found himself drumming along, not louder to drown it out, but in a complementary rhythm that made both their sounds more beautiful. Squirrel, who always chattered when she was excited about the new day, discovered that if she chattered in time with Woodpecker's drumming and Rooster's crowing, her voice became like a cheerful melody dancing above their rhythm. Soon, Rabbit found himself thumping his foot not in alarm, but in time with the forest's morning music. And when Bear emerged from his cave and heard the beautiful sounds his friends were making together, his deep, rumbly voice naturally harmonized with all of theirs, creating a rich bass line that made their forest symphony complete. "Oh my," whispered Grandmother Turtle, listening from her sunny spot on the moss. "Now that is music." As the days passed, the animals learned to create the most beautiful music the forest had ever heard. They discovered that when Owl's gentle hooting blended with the evening cricket sounds and Rabbit's soft thumping, it created the perfect lullaby for the forest's bedtime. When Rooster's morning crow was joined by birds' melodious singing and squirrels' rhythmic chattering, it became a joyful wake-up song that made everyone happy to greet the new day. They learned that music wasn't about everyone making the same sound. It was about everyone contributing their own unique voice to create something more beautiful than any of them could make alone. "I never knew my drumming could sound so good," Woodpecker said one evening as they finished their sunset symphony. "I never knew anyone else's sounds could make my crowing sound better," admitted Rooster. "That's the magic of harmony," Grandmother Turtle explained. "When we stop competing with each other and start complimenting each other, we create something beautiful that none of us could create alone." Word of the forest's beautiful music spread throughout the land. Other creatures would journey from far away just to listen to the harmony that the animals had learned to create together. But the most wonderful thing was how the music changed the animals themselves. Instead of being annoyed by each other's differences, they became grateful for them. Rooster appreciated how Owl's mysterious hooting added depth to their music. Owl valued how Rooster's bold crowing gave their songs strength and clarity. Each animal learned that what made them unique was exactly what the forest's symphony needed. "We are all different instruments," Bear would tell visitors who asked about their beautiful music, "but we all play in the same orchestra, and every instrument, from the loudest trumpet to the softest whisper, is necessary to make the music complete. And you, dear listener, are also an instrument in life's great orchestra. Your voice, your laugh, your way of seeing the world, your special gifts. These are the notes that only you can contribute to the symphony of existence. Listen for the rhythm of life around you and find the moments when your unique song can harmonize with all the other beautiful voices, creating music more wonderful than any of us could make alone." Story 14. The Bridge Builder. In a valley where two rivers met to form a wide, rushing stream, there lived two very different communities on opposite banks. On the eastern side lived the Sunrise people, who woke early and loved mornings, bright colors, and quick, energetic activities. On the western side lived the Sunset people, who stayed up late and loved evenings, soft colors, and slow, peaceful activities. For as long as anyone could remember, the two communities had lived completely separate lives. The river between them was too wide and fast to cross safely, so the Sunrise people and Sunset people rarely interacted with each other. Over time, they began to develop very different opinions about their neighbors across the water. The Sunrise people would say, "Those Sunset people are so lazy. Look how they sleep in every morning while we're already up working hard." The Sunset people would reply, "Those Sunrise people are so rushed and frantic. They go to bed right when the most beautiful part of the day is beginning." Neither group understood the other, and both groups were convinced that their way of living was the right way and the other side's way was wrong. In the middle of this divided valley lived a young girl named Maya, who was different from everyone else. Maya lived in a small cottage right at the point where the two rivers joined, so she could see both communities from her bedroom window. Unlike everyone else in the valley, Maya loved both mornings and evenings, both bright colors and soft colors, both energetic activities and peaceful ones. "I don't understand why everyone has to choose sides," Maya would say to her grandmother, who had raised her in the little cottage by the joining rivers. "The Sunrise people have such wonderful energy and joy in the mornings, and the Sunset people create such beautiful, peaceful art in the evenings. Why can't they appreciate each other?" Maya's grandmother was a wise woman who had lived in the valley longer than anyone else. Many years ago, she told Maya, before the communities grew so separate, people used to cross between both sides freely. There was a beautiful bridge right here, where our cottage sits now. But a big storm washed it away, and no one ever rebuilt it. Without a way to visit each other, people forgot how much they had in common. Maya looked out at the rushing water between the two communities and had an idea that excited her heart. "What if we built a new bridge, Grandma? What if we gave people a way to visit each other again?" Her grandmother smiled. "That sounds like a wonderful idea, dear one. But bridges are big projects. You'll need help from both sides to build something strong enough to cross this river." Maya knew her grandmother was right. She couldn't build a bridge by herself. But how could she get help from two groups of people who didn't even like each other? Maya decided to start by visiting each community separately. Early one morning, she crossed the river in her small rowboat and visited the Sunrise people. "Good morning," Maya called cheerfully as she walked through their bright, bustling village. "I'm Maya from the cottage by the river. I have an idea I'd like to share with you." The Sunrise people gathered around curiously. Maya explained her dream of building a bridge so the two communities could visit each other. "But why would we want to visit those lazy Sunset people?" asked one man. "They sleep through the most productive part of the day." "Well," Maya said thoughtfully, "what if they're not lazy? What if they just have different strengths than you do? I've watched them in the evenings, and they create the most amazing art and music and poetry. Maybe you could learn from each other." Said a woman who was known for her beautiful morning garden. "I have always wondered how they make those gorgeous tapestries I sometimes see hanging in their windows. And their evening music does sound lovely when the wind carries it across the water," admitted another person. Maya spent the whole morning with the Sunrise people. listening to their concerns and sharing her vision of how much richer both communities could be if they could learn from each other's strengths. That evening, Maya rode across to the Sunset People's village, where lanterns were just beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk. "Good evening," Maya called softly as she walked through their peaceful, artistic village. "I'm Maya from the cottage by the river. I'd love to share an idea with you." The Sunset People gathered around in the gentle lamplight, and Maya explained her bridge-building dream. "But why would we want to visit those frantic Sunrise People?" asked a young artist. "They're always rushing around, never taking time to appreciate beauty." "What if they're not frantic?" Maya suggested gently. "What if they just have different gifts than you do? I've watched them in the mornings, and they have such wonderful energy and enthusiasm. They grow the most amazing gardens and create things with such skill and speed. Maybe you could teach each other." "I have wondered," said an elderly musician, "how they manage to grow such vibrant flowers. My evening garden could use some of their morning magic." "And their energy does seem joyful," admitted a poet. "Sometimes I feel like my peaceful nature could use a bit more spark." Maya spent the evening with the Sunset People, sharing her dream and helping them see how much they might enjoy learning from their neighbors across the river. Over the next few weeks, Maya worked tirelessly to bring her bridge-building dream to life. She convinced the Sunrise People to contribute their energy, building skills, and morning work time. She convinced the Sunset People to contribute their artistic vision, careful planning, and evening problem-solving sessions. Slowly, people from both sides began to work together on the bridge project. At first, they worked in separate shifts: Sunrise People in the morning, Sunset People in the evening. But gradually, as they saw each other's skills and contributions, some began to work side by side. The Sunrise People were amazed by the Sunset People's attention to beautiful details and thoughtful planning. The Sunset People were impressed by the Sunrise People's enthusiasm and ability to get things done efficiently. "You know," said the Sunrise Gardener to the Sunset Musician as they worked together one afternoon, "I've been trying to figure out why my evening flowers never bloom as beautifully as my morning ones. Maybe you could teach me about the peaceful energy that plants need in the evening?" "I'd love to," replied the musician. "And maybe you could show me how you bring such joyful energy to your morning routine. I sometimes feel too sleepy to appreciate the dawn, but you make it look so wonderful." As the bridge took shape, strong and practical like the Sunrise People, but also graceful and beautiful like the Sunset People, something magical began to happen. The two communities started to realize that they weren't opposites who had to choose sides. They were complements who could make each other's lives richer and more complete. The day the bridge was finished, both communities gathered for a celebration that lasted from sunrise to sunset. The Sunrise People taught the Sunset People energetic morning dances, while the Sunset People taught the Sunrise People peaceful evening meditations. "Look at what we created together," Maya said to her grandmother as they watched people crossing the bridge in both directions, visiting, learning, and becoming friends. "You did more than build a bridge over the river, dear one," her grandmother replied with proud eyes. "You built a bridge between hearts. You helped people see that differences aren't walls to keep us apart. They're gifts we can share to make everyone's life more beautiful." Years later, the valley became known throughout the land as the most harmonious place anyone had ever seen. Visitors would come from far away to see how two very different communities had learned to celebrate their differences while discovering their similarities. And Maya? she became known as the bridge builder, helping communities everywhere learn that the things that make us different are not reasons to stay apart, but opportunities to make life more wonderful for everyone. Sometimes, when the sunset painted the bridge in golden light, people would see Maya standing in the middle, looking with joy at all the friends crossing back and forth. She had learned that building bridges between people wasn't just about construction. It was about helping hearts remember that we all belong to each other, no matter how different we might seem. Story 15. The Web of Light. In a quiet corner of an old garden, where morning dew gathered like tiny pearls on flower petals and sunlight filtered through ancient oak leaves, lived a small spider named Weaver. She was not an ordinary spider, for instead of spinning webs to catch insects, Weaver had a special gift. She could spin threads of pure light. Every morning, as the first rays of sunrise touched the garden, Weaver would begin her work. Thread by shimmering thread, she would spin the most beautiful webs of golden light that connected flower to flower, tree to tree, and creature to creature throughout the entire garden. But Weaver was the only one who could see her light webs. To everyone else in the garden, the flowers, the birds, the butterflies, the other spiders, it looked like she was just sitting quietly in her corner, not doing much of anything at all. "That Weaver is so lazy," the other spiders would whisper. "Look at us, spinning proper webs to catch our food, while she just sits there doing nothing useful. Why doesn't she contribute to the garden like the rest of us?" wondered Busy Bee, who spent all day gathering pollen. "Everyone should be working." Even the flowers sometimes wondered about Weaver. "She seems nice," said Rose gently, "but we never see her making anything or helping anyone." Weaver heard these comments and felt sad. She knew she was working harder than anyone realized, but her light webs were invisible to others. Every day, she carefully spun connections between all living things in the garden, creating a network of light that helped love and kindness flow from one creature to another. When Butterfly felt sad, Weaver's light threads carried comfort from the cheerful sunflower. When Old Oak Tree felt lonely, the web brought him the joyful energy of the young saplings. When the garden mice felt scared during storms, Weaver's web carried courage from brave Robin, who never let bad weather stop her from singing. But because no one could see what she was doing, Weaver began to doubt herself. "Maybe they're right," she thought sadly. "Maybe my work isn't important if no one can see it. Maybe I should stop spinning light and try to be useful in ways that others can understand." One day, Weaver decided to stop spinning her webs of light. "I'll prove I can be useful in visible ways," she told herself, and she began trying to spin regular spider webs like the others. But Weaver had never learned to spin ordinary webs. Her attempts were crooked and full of holes. The other spiders laughed at her clumsy efforts, and Weaver felt worse than ever. What Weaver didn't realize was that the moment she stopped spinning her light webs, something began to change in the garden. Without the invisible threads carrying love and kindness between all the creatures, the garden started to feel different. Rose began to feel isolated and stopped sharing her sweet fragrances generously. Oak Tree felt cut off from the younger plants and became grumpy and unwelcoming. Butterfly grew sadder, and her flights became less joyful. Even Busy Bee found herself feeling irritable and rushed, forgetting to stop and appreciate the flowers she visited. Arguments began to break out. The morning birds started squabbling over the best perches instead of singing in harmony. The flowers competed for sunlight instead of sharing it gracefully. The garden, which had always been a peaceful place, began to feel tense and disconnected. Only one creature in the garden understood what was happening. It was Ancient Owl, who was so old and wise that she could see things others could not, including Weaver's threads of light. One evening, as Weaver sat sadly in her corner trying unsuccessfully to spin another regular web, Ancient Owl glided silently down to visit her. "Little Weaver," Owl said in her deep, gentle voice, "why have you stopped spinning your true webs?" Weaver looked up in surprise. You can see them? My light webs?" "Oh yes," Owl replied, her large eyes twinkling with ancient wisdom. "I can see how your beautiful threads of light connect every living thing in this garden. I can see how love flows through your web from creature to creature, how comfort travels along your strands, how joy dances across your connections." Tears gathered in Weaver's small eyes. "But no one else can see them. Everyone thinks I'm lazy and useless. They say I don't contribute anything to the garden." Owl's voice was warm with understanding. "The most important work is often invisible, dear one. Love is invisible, but it changes everything. Kindness is invisible, but it heals hearts. Connection is invisible, but it makes life worth living. Your web carries all of these invisible gifts throughout our garden." "But how can I prove that my work matters if no one can see it?" Weaver asked. "Look around you," Owl said softly. "Since you stopped spinning your light web, has the garden felt the same? Have the creatures been as happy, as connected, as kind to each other?" Weaver looked around and realized that Owl was right. The garden did feel different, sadder, lonelier, more divided. "Your web doesn't just connect places," Owl continued. "It connects hearts. It helps every creature in the garden feel less alone, more loved, more part of something beautiful and bigger than themselves. That may be invisible work, but it's the most important work in the world." With renewed purpose and joy, Weaver began spinning her light webs again. Thread by shimmering thread, she reconnected all the creatures of the garden. She spun strands of comfort from the strong oak to the delicate violets. She wove connections of laughter between the playful squirrels and the serious hedgehog. She created bridges of understanding between the day creatures and the night creatures. Almost immediately, the garden began to feel like home again. Rose's fragrance grew sweeter and spread further. Oak trees' leaves rustled with welcoming sounds. Butterflies' flights became dances of pure joy. The morning birds resumed their beautiful harmonies. And though most creatures still couldn't see Weaver's light webs, they could feel the difference her work made. The garden felt more loving, more connected, more like a place where everyone belonged. "You know," said Rose one morning, "I don't know what it is, but lately I've been feeling so much more connected to everyone in the garden. It's like there's some invisible force helping us all care for each other." "I've been feeling that too," agreed Butterfly. "Like there are threads of love connecting all of us, helping kindness flow from heart to heart." Weaver smiled as she worked on her latest web of light, knowing that even if others couldn't see her threads, they could feel the love that traveled through them. Ancient Owl would sometimes perch nearby and watch Weaver work. "Keep spinning your light, little one," she would say. "The world needs weavers like you. Those who understand that the most powerful connections are often invisible, but they're what hold everything together. And you, dear listener, are also a weaver of invisible connections. Every kind thought you think sends light to someone who needs it. Every gentle word you speak strengthens the web of love that connects all hearts. Every act of compassion you offer helps weave the world together in ways you may never see, but that matter more than you can imagine. Right now, as you rest peacefully, Feel the invisible threads of light that connect you to everyone you love, and to all the love in the universe that surrounds and supports you always. Part 5. Stories of Gratitude and Wonder. As we drift deeper into this peaceful night, dear soul, we come to stories that open our hearts like flowers opening to morning light. These are tales of gratitude and wonder, stories that help us see the magic that surrounds us always, waiting quietly for grateful hearts to notice. Story 16. The Thankful Stone. At the edge of a babbling brook, where wildflowers nodded in the gentle breeze and dragonflies painted the air with their dancing wings, there rested a small, ordinary stone named Pebble. She was not particularly large or colorful or interesting to look at. Just a smooth, gray stone about the size of your palm, worn round by countless years of water flowing over her surface. Every day, Pebble would watch the world around her and feel quite unremarkable. She saw the brilliant flowers showing off their rainbow petals to attract butterflies and bees. She watched the graceful willow tree swaying in the breeze, her long green hair flowing like a dancer's. She observed the busy brook babbling important messages as it carried leaves and twigs on exciting journeys downstream. "Look at me," Pebble would sigh to herself. "I'm just a plain gray stone. I don't bloom like the flowers. I don't dance like the willow. I don't flow anywhere important like the brook. I just sit here, day after day, doing nothing special at all." Pebble felt so ordinary, so unimportant, that she began to wish she could be something else, anything else, that might matter more to the world around her. One sunny morning, a little girl named Luna came skipping along the brook's edge with her grandmother. Luna had bright, curious eyes that seemed to notice everything, and when she spotted Pebble, she stopped and gasped with delight. "Oh, Grandma, look at this perfect stone," Luna exclaimed, picking up Pebble gently in her small hands. "She's so smooth and warm from the sunshine, and she fits perfectly in my palm like she was made just for me." Pebble couldn't believe her ears. Perfect? Made just for Luna? But she was just an ordinary stone. Luna's grandmother knelt down beside her granddaughter and smiled. "She is lovely, isn't she? See how the water has polished her so smooth? And look at that beautiful gray color, like storm clouds mixed with silver moonlight." "Can I keep her, Grandma?" Luna asked, cradling Pebble like a treasure. "I want to carry her in my pocket so she can come on adventures with me." Pebble felt a warm glow spread through her rocky heart. Someone wanted her? Someone thought she was special enough to keep? From that day forward, Pebble became Luna's constant companion. In Luna's pocket, Pebble traveled to places she had never imagined. To the library where Luna would stroke her smooth surface while listening to stories. To the park where Luna would hold her tight when she felt nervous about making new friends. To school where Pebble's comforting weight in Luna's pocket helped her feel brave during difficult tests. "You're my worry stone," Luna would whisper to Pebble when she felt anxious. "When I hold you, I remember that some things in the world are steady and calm and peaceful, just like you." Pebble began to understand that her stillness, the very quality she had thought made her boring, was actually her gift. While everything else in the world was always moving and changing and rushing around, Pebble offered something precious: constancy, calmness, a peaceful presence that helped Luna feel grounded and secure. One day, Luna brought Pebble to visit her grandfather, who was in the hospital feeling scared and sad about being sick. Luna placed Pebble in her grandfather's weathered hand. "This is my special stone, Grandpa," Luna said softly. She always makes me feel better when I'm worried. Maybe she can help you feel peaceful too." Luna's grandfather closed his fingers around Pebble's smooth surface and immediately felt something wonderful happen. The stone's coolness soothed his fever, and her steady, calm energy seemed to quiet the worried thoughts racing through his mind. "Thank you, little stone," he whispered. "You carry such peace within you." As the weeks passed, Pebble discovered that she had many gifts she had never recognized before. Her smooth surface was perfect for Luna's nervous fingers to trace when she needed comfort. Her weight was just right for helping Luna feel grounded when her thoughts were spinning too fast. Her coolness could soothe hot foreheads, and her warmth from the sun could comfort cold hands. But most importantly, Pebble's simple presence reminded everyone who held her of something beautiful. That you don't have to be flashy or complicated or constantly moving to be valuable. Sometimes the most precious things are the quiet ones, the steady ones, the ones that offer their gifts simply by being exactly what they are. One evening, as Luna sat by the brook where she had first found Pebble, she held her special stone up to catch the last rays of sunlight. "Do you know what makes you so special?" Luna asked Pebble softly. "It's not that you're rare or fancy or different from other stones. It's that you're perfectly yourself. You're smooth because the water loved you enough to polish you gently for years and years. You're gray because that's the beautiful color the earth chose for you. You're just the right size because you grew to be exactly what the world needed." Pebble felt tears of gratitude gather in her rocky heart. She had spent so much time wishing she could be something else that she had almost missed the joy of being perfectly, wonderfully herself. "And you know what else?" Luna continued, her voice full of love. "Every time I hold you, you remind me that I'm perfectly myself too. You help me remember that I don't have to be like anyone else to be special. I just have to be the best Luna I can be, just like you're the best Pebble you can be." From that day forward, Pebble never again wished to be something different. She understood now that her purpose wasn't to bloom like the flowers, or flow like the brook, or dance like the willow. Her purpose was to be a steady, peaceful presence in a world that sometimes moved too fast. Her gift was to remind people that ordinary things can hold extraordinary love, and that simple presence can be the most precious gift of all. Years later, when Luna grew up and had children of her own, she would still carry Pebble in her pocket. And sometimes, when her own children felt worried or sad, Luna would place Pebble gently in their hands and tell them the story of the little stone who discovered that being ordinary was actually quite extraordinary. "You see," Luna would tell them, "Pebble taught me that we don't have to be the loudest or the brightest or the most exciting to matter. Sometimes the most important gift we can give is simply being quietly, steadily, lovingly ourselves." And you, dear listener, carry within you that same simple, extraordinary gift. Your steady presence, your quiet kindness, your gentle way of being in the world. These are treasures more valuable than diamonds. You don't have to be anyone else to be perfectly, wonderfully enough. Story 17. The Sunrise Painter. In a cozy cottage perched on a hill overlooking a peaceful valley, there lived an artist named Aurora, who painted the most beautiful pictures anyone in the village had ever seen. Her paintings of flowers were so lifelike that bees would sometimes try to land on them. Her portraits captured the very soul of whoever sat for her. Her landscapes were so realistic that people felt they could step right into them. But despite all her talent and all the praise she received, Aurora felt something was missing from her art. She painted beautiful things, but somehow Her paintings never quite captured the feeling of true beauty, that breathtaking moment when your heart stops because something is so gorgeous it takes your breath away. "I can paint what things look like," Aurora would say to herself as she cleaned her brushes at the end of each day. "But I can't seem to paint what they feel like. I can't capture the magic." Aurora had tried everything she could think of. She had bought the most expensive paints, the finest brushes, the best canvases. She had studied with famous artists and learned new techniques. She had painted faster and slower, with more detail and with broader strokes. Nothing seemed to help her capture that elusive feeling of wonder she was seeking. One morning, Aurora woke up earlier than usual, so early that the world was still wrapped in the soft gray light that comes just before dawn. As she lay in bed, something golden began to glow at the edges of her bedroom window. Curious, Aurora got up and looked outside. What she saw took her breath away. The sun was just beginning to rise over the distant mountains, painting the entire sky in colors she had never seen before. Not just gold and pink and orange, but colors that seemed to have no names. Colors that shifted and changed even as she watched them. "I must paint this," Aurora whispered, grabbing her easel, paints, and brushes as quickly as she could. "This is it. This is the magic I've been trying to capture." Aurora rushed outside and set up her easel in the garden, her hands trembling with excitement. She squeezed out her paints and began to work frantically, trying to catch the colors before they changed, trying to capture the beauty before it faded. But something strange happened. The faster Aurora painted, the more the beauty seemed to slip away from her. The colors on her canvas looked flat and ordinary compared to the living light dancing across the sky. The more she focused on her painting, the less she actually saw of the sunrise itself. "No, no, no," Aurora muttered, mixing colors frantically. "It's changing too fast. I can't keep up. Just hold still for one moment so I can paint you." But of course, the sunrise couldn't hold still. That was part of what made it so beautiful. It was alive, constantly changing, flowing from one moment of beauty to the next. Aurora painted furiously as the sun climbed higher, growing more and more frustrated as her canvas failed to capture even a fraction of what her eyes were seeing. By the time the sun had fully risen and the magical colors had faded to ordinary daylight, Aurora's painting looked like just another sunrise painting. Pretty, but not magical. Disappointed and exhausted, Aurora sat back and looked at what she had created. Then she looked up at the sky, now blue and normal, and felt a deep sadness in her heart. "I missed it," she whispered. "I was so busy trying to paint the sunrise that I barely saw it at all." Just then, Aurora heard a gentle voice behind her. It was quite beautiful, wasn't it? Aurora turned to see an elderly woman sitting on the garden bench, watching the sky with peaceful, content eyes. Aurora had never seen her before, but something about the woman felt familiar and comforting. "You saw it?" Aurora asked. "Oh yes," the woman replied with a smile. "Every morning for 70 years, I've watched the sun rise from this very spot. I used to live in the cottage next door before I moved on to other places. But I still come back sometimes to watch the beauty I loved so much." "I tried to paint it," Aurora said sadly, gesturing at her canvas. "But I couldn't capture any of the real magic. It just looks ordinary now." The elderly woman rose and walked over to look at Aurora's painting. "It's lovely," she said sincerely. "You have great skill. But may I ask you something?" Aurora nodded. "While you were painting, did you notice how the light made the dew sparkle on the grass like tiny diamonds? Did you see the way the colors reflected in the pond, making it look like a piece of fallen sky?" Did you feel the gentle warmth of the first rays touching your face? Aurora realized with a sinking heart that she hadn't noticed any of those things. She had been so focused on trying to capture the beauty that she had missed experiencing it. The most beautiful things in life, the woman said gently, can't be captured, only appreciated. They're not meant to be held onto forever. They're meant to be fully experienced in the moment they're given to us. But then, how can I share this beauty with others? Aurora asked. How can I help people see what I've seen if I can't paint it? The elderly woman's eyes twinkled with wisdom. Maybe the sharing isn't in the painting itself. Maybe it's in the love you feel for beauty, the wonder you carry in your heart, the appreciation you've learned for precious moments. When you paint from that feeling, not trying to capture beauty, but expressing your love for it, something magical happens. The next morning, Aurora woke early again, but this time she left her paints inside. She walked into her garden and simply sat quietly, watching the sunrise with her whole heart and soul. She noticed everything the elderly woman had mentioned, the dewdrops like diamonds, the reflected colors dancing in the pond, the gentle warmth on her face. She felt the peace of the morning, the promise of a new day, the gratitude for being alive to witness such wonder. And something beautiful happened in Aurora's heart. Instead of feeling frustrated that she couldn't capture the beauty, she felt overwhelmed with love for it. Instead of grasping at the changing colors, she let them flow through her experience like music flows through a listener. When the sunrise had finished its daily masterpiece, Aurora went inside and began to paint. But this time, she wasn't trying to paint the sunrise itself. She was painting the feeling of gratitude, the emotion of wonder, the love that filled her heart when she truly saw beauty. Her brush moved differently now, not frantically trying to catch something that was escaping, but peacefully expressing something that was already caught in her heart. The colors she mixed weren't exact copies of what she had seen, but they were true to what she had felt. When Aurora finished her painting, she looked at it with amazement. It didn't look exactly like the sunrise she had seen, but it felt like it. Anyone who looked at this painting would understand what it was like to feel your heart fill with wonder at the beauty of the world. Word spread quickly through the village about Aurora's new painting. People would come to look at it and leave with tears in their eyes, saying things like, "It makes me remember what it feels like to see something truly beautiful. And looking at this makes me want to wake up early tomorrow to watch the sunrise myself." Aurora realized that the elderly woman had been right. The most beautiful things couldn't be captured, but the love for beauty could be shared. When she stopped trying to possess magical moments and started appreciating them fully, her art became magical too. From that day forward, Aurora's paintings were different. She still painted flowers and people and landscapes, but now each painting carried something extra. The artist's deep appreciation for the beauty of existence, her gratitude for being able to witness wonder, her love for the precious, unrepeatable moments that make life so rich. And sometimes, in the early morning light, Aurora would see the elderly woman sitting on the garden bench, smiling as she watched Aurora experience each new sunrise with complete presence and joy. "Thank you," Aurora would whisper to her mysterious teacher. "You taught me that the most beautiful art isn't about capturing beauty. It's about celebrating it." Dear listener, you too are surrounded by sunrises waiting to be appreciated, by moments of beauty that can't be captured but can fill your heart with wonder. The magic isn't in holding on to these moments forever. It's in being fully present for them while they're happening. letting them paint themselves across the canvas of your grateful heart. Story 18. The Memory Keeper. In the heart of an old town where cobblestone streets wound between buildings that had stood for hundreds of years, there was a library unlike any other in the world. It wasn't just filled with books, though there were plenty of those. This library was filled with memories. The librarian was an elderly man named Keeper, who had worked in the library for so many decades that nobody could remember when he had first arrived. His hair was silver as moonlight, his eyes were kind as summer rain, and his hands were gentle as butterfly wings when he handled the precious memories in his care. But these weren't ordinary memories written in books. These were living memories that glowed softly like captured fireflies, each one stored in a beautiful glass sphere that sat on special shelves throughout the library. When someone held one of these memory spheres, they could experience the memory as if they were living it themselves. Keeper's job was to help people who had forgotten how to treasure their happy memories. In the busy, rushing world outside, many people had lost touch with the beautiful moments that had filled their lives. They remembered their worries and problems clearly, but the joyful memories had grown dim and dusty, like treasures hidden in a forgotten attic. One gray afternoon, when raindrops tapped gently against the library windows, a young woman named Clara came through the heavy wooden doors. She moved slowly, as if carrying an invisible weight, and her eyes looked tired and sad. "Excuse me," Clara said quietly to Keeper. "I heard that this library has special books. I'm looking for something to help me remember how to be happy. Lately, all I can remember are the difficult times, the mistakes I've made, the things that have gone wrong. I feel like I've forgotten how to see the good in my life." Keeper's kind eyes twinkled with understanding. "Ah, my dear," he said gently, "you've come to exactly the right place. You don't need a book. You need to rediscover your own treasures. Come, let me show you something wonderful." Keeper led Clara deeper into the library, past towering shelves lined with thousands of glowing memory spheres. "These," he explained, "are happy memories that people have shared with me over the years. But more importantly, they can help you remember how to find and treasure your own beautiful moments." He stopped in front of a section marked Childhood Joys and carefully lifted down a sphere that glowed with warm, golden light. "This memory," Keeper said, "belongs to a woman who had forgotten the simple pleasure of puddle jumping. Shall we visit it together?" Clara nodded, and Keeper gently placed the sphere in her hands. Immediately, she was transported into the memory of a 5-year-old girl splashing joyfully through rain puddles, laughing with pure delight at the splashes and ripples, feeling completely free and wonderfully alive. When the memory faded, Clara found herself smiling for the first time in weeks. "I remember doing that," she said softly. "I had forgotten how good it felt to play in the rain." "That's the magic of treasuring memories," Keeper said warmly. "When we revisit the beautiful moments, we remember that our lives have been full of joy. We just sometimes forget to notice it." He led Clara to another section labeled Acts of Kindness and handed her a sphere filled with soft lavender light. This memory belonged to a man who had remembered the time a stranger had helped him carry groceries when his arms were full, showing him that the world was full of good people. "I remember something like that too," Clara said, her voice growing stronger. "Last month, when my car broke down, a neighbor I barely knew offered to drive me to work every day until it was fixed. I was so stressed about the car that I forgot to appreciate how kind that was." Keeper smiled and nodded. Our minds have a curious habit of focusing on problems and forgetting blessings. But the blessings are always there, waiting for us to remember them. They spent the afternoon exploring different sections of the memory library. Clara experienced memories of perfect summer days, of hugs from grandparents, of the first sight of snow, of finding unexpected wildflowers, of reading a book that changed someone's life, of making a friend laugh until they couldn't breathe. With each memory, Clara felt her own treasured moments beginning to resurface. She remembered the way her morning coffee tasted perfect on certain days. She recalled the satisfaction of finishing a challenging project at work. She thought of her cat purring contentedly in her lap, of surprise phone calls from old friends, of sunsets that had stopped her in her tracks with their beauty. "I can't believe I forgot all these good things," Clara said as the afternoon light began to fade. "Why do the difficult memories seem so much louder than the happy ones?" Keeper settled into his favorite reading chair and gestured for Clara to sit nearby. "Difficult memories are like alarm bells," he explained gently. "They shout at us because they want to protect us from future pain. But happy memories are like gentle music. They whisper to us, waiting patiently for us to listen." "But how do I make sure I don't forget the good things again?" Clara asked. Keeper's eyes sparkled with wisdom. "You become a memory keeper yourself, my dear. Every day before you go to sleep, you remember one beautiful thing that happened, no matter how small. Maybe it was a smile from a stranger, or the way sunlight looked coming through your window, or a moment when you felt grateful for something simple." He walked over to a special shelf and brought back an empty glass sphere, clear as crystal and waiting to be filled. "This is for you," he said, placing it gently in Clara's hands. "Every time you consciously treasure a happy memory, this sphere will fill with light. Soon you'll have your own collection of beautiful moments to revisit whenever you need reminding." Clara held the empty sphere and felt something shift in her heart. "You mean I can learn to be grateful for ordinary moments? I can train myself to notice the good things?" "Oh, yes," Keeper replied warmly. "Gratitude is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. The more you practice noticing beauty and kindness and joy, the more your heart will be able to see them everywhere." As Clara prepared to leave the library, her step was lighter and her eyes were brighter. The empty memory sphere in her bag felt like a promise, a commitment to treasure the gifts that each day would bring. "Thank you," she said to Keeper. "You've helped me remember that my life has been full of beautiful moments. I just needed to learn how to see them again." "The beauty was always there," Keeper replied with a gentle smile. "I just helped you remember how to look for it. And now you can help others remember too, just by sharing your own gratitude and wonder." Months later, Clara returned to the library with her memory sphere glowing brightly with dozens of treasured moments she had collected. She had become a memory keeper in her own life, someone who noticed and appreciated the daily gifts of beauty, kindness, and joy. "Look," she said to Keeper, holding up her glowing sphere, "I've learned to see magic in ordinary days. Yesterday I treasured the way my neighbor's baby laughed, the satisfaction of helping a coworker solve a problem, and the perfect cup of tea I made before bed. My life hasn't changed, but my ability to appreciate it has changed everything." Keeper nodded with pride and satisfaction. Another person had learned the most important lesson of all, that a life rich in treasured memories is a life rich in happiness, and that gratitude transforms ordinary moments into precious gifts we can revisit forever. And you, dear listener, carry within you a library full of beautiful memories waiting to be treasured. Each kindness you've received, each moment of beauty you've witnessed, each time you felt loved or peaceful or joyful, these are the diamonds of your life, ready to sparkle whenever you choose to remember them. Story 19. The Wishing Well's Wisdom. In a quiet grove where ancient trees formed a circle like wise guardians keeping watch, there stood a wishing well that was older than memory itself. The well was made of smooth gray stones covered with soft moss, and its depths were so dark and mysterious that they seemed to hold all the secrets of the earth. For centuries, people had traveled from far and wide to visit this magical well. They came carrying heavy hearts and long lists of wishes, hoping that if they threw coins into the dark water and wished hard enough, all their problems would disappear and all their dreams would come true. The well had a gentle spirit named Wisdom, who lived in its depths, listening to thousands upon thousands of wishes over the years. Wisdom had heard every kind of wish imaginable: wishes for money and fame, wishes for love and friendship, wishes for different lives and different selves, wishes for things to change and things to stay the same. But Wisdom noticed something sad about most of the people who came to make wishes. They were so focused on what they didn't have that they couldn't see the treasures they already carried. They wished for happiness while standing in beautiful sunlight. They wished for love while being surrounded by friends who cared about them. They wished for peace while breathing freely under an open sky. One warm summer evening, a young man named River came to the wishing well carrying the heaviest heart Wisdom had ever felt. River sat on the well's edge and pulled out a handful of coins, his face creased with worry and longing. "I don't know where to begin," River said to the dark water. "I have so many wishes, so many things I need to change about my life. I wish I had more money so I wouldn't have to worry about paying bills. I wish I was more successful so people would respect me. I wish I was taller and more handsome so I'd feel confident. I wish I lived somewhere more exciting than this quiet little town. I wish, I wish, I wish." River threw coin after coin into the well, each one carrying another wish, another hope that something outside himself would finally make him feel complete and happy. When River had thrown his last coin and sat quietly waiting for magic to happen, Wisdom decided to speak. The well had never spoken to a visitor before, but something about River's deep sadness touched the ancient spirit's heart. "My dear young man," came a gentle voice from the depths of the well, warm as summer honey and old as the earth itself. River startled and looked around. "Who's there? Who's speaking?" "I am the spirit of this well," Wisdom replied kindly. "For centuries, I've been listening to wishes, and yours have touched my heart. But before I grant any wishes, may I ask you some questions?" River's eyes grew wide with amazement, but he nodded eagerly. A magical talking well. Surely this meant his wishes would come true. "Tell me," Wisdom said gently, "as you walked through the grove tonight, did you notice the fireflies dancing like tiny stars? Did you feel the gentle breeze cooling your skin? Did you hear the evening birds singing their lullabies to the trees?" River paused, trying to remember his walk to the well. I was too worried about my problems to notice things like that," he admitted. "And when you woke up this morning," Wisdom continued, "were you able to see clearly with your eyes, hear music with your ears, breathe easily with your lungs?" "Well, yes," River said, "but those are just normal things. Everyone has those." "Ah," Wisdom said warmly, "but not everyone appreciates them. Tell me, Is there anyone in your life who loves you just as you are? River thought about his grandmother, who always hugged him tight and told him he was perfect exactly as he was. He thought about his best friend, who called him every week just to hear how he was doing. He thought about his little sister, who looked up to him like he was the most wonderful person in the world. Yes, River said quietly, there are people who love me, but I still don't have enough money, and I'm still not successful, and I still don't like how I look. My dear River, Wisdom said with infinite gentleness, let me tell you what I see when I look at your life through my ancient eyes. I see a young man with healthy eyes that can witness sunsets and read books, and see the smiles of people he loves. I see someone with a healthy body that can walk and run and hug and dance. I see a person surrounded by love, living in a world full of beauty, breathing fresh air under an endless sky full of stars. River started to protest, but Wisdom continued. I see someone who has a home to shelter him, food to nourish him, and the freedom to make choices about his life. I see a mind capable of learning and growing, a heart capable of loving and feeling joy. I see treasures beyond counting, and yet you wish for more. River sat in silence, really thinking about what Wisdom was saying. For the first time, he began to see his life not as a list of problems and lacking things, but as a collection of gifts he had been taking for granted. But, River said slowly, if I have so much already, why don't I feel happy? Why do I always feel like something is missing? Because, Wisdom replied with deep compassion, you've been looking for happiness in the wrong place. You've been searching for it in getting more things, achieving more success, becoming someone different. But happiness isn't something you find outside yourself. It's something you recognize inside yourself. Wisdom's voice grew even gentler. The wishing well's greatest secret isn't that it grants wishes. It's that it helps people realize they already have everything they need to be content and grateful and joyful. The magic isn't in the well, dear one. The magic is in learning to see the abundance that surrounds you always. River felt something shift deeply in his heart, like a door opening to let sunlight into a room that had been dark for too long. You mean, I don't need to change everything about my life to be happy? You can certainly work toward goals and dreams, Wisdom replied warmly. Growth and change can be beautiful things, but your happiness doesn't have to wait until you achieve them. Joy is available to you right now, in this moment, if you learn to appreciate what you already have. River looked around the grove with new eyes. For the first time, he truly saw the fireflies dancing their magical dance. He felt the gentle evening breeze like a soft blessing on his skin. He heard the symphony of evening sounds, crickets and rustling leaves, and distant water flowing like nature's own lullaby. It's beautiful, River whispered. How did I miss all this beauty? The same way most people do, Wisdom replied kindly. By focusing so hard on what you wish was different that you forget to appreciate what's already wonderful. River stood up from the well's edge and took a deep breath of the sweet evening air. I understand now. I've been so busy wishing for a different life that I forgot to enjoy the life I have. And now? Wisdom asked. River smiled, a real, genuine smile that came from deep gratitude rather than getting something he wanted. Now I think I'd like to make a different kind of wish. I wish to remember every day how rich my life already is. I wish to notice the beauty that surrounds me. I wish to appreciate the love I receive and the simple gifts of being alive. Ah, Wisdom said with deep satisfaction. Now, that is the kind of wish that always comes true, because it depends not on changing the world around you, but on changing the eyes with which you see that world. As River walked back home through the grove, everything looked different. Not because anything had changed, but because he had learned to see with grateful eyes. The same fireflies now looked like fallen stars. The same path now felt like a gentle adventure. The same evening air now tasted like freedom and possibility. From that night forward, River carried the well's wisdom with him wherever he went. He still had goals and dreams, but he no longer waited for them to come true before allowing himself to be happy. He had learned that contentment wasn't about having everything you want. It was about appreciating everything you have. And you, precious listener, what treasures surround you right now that are waiting for grateful eyes to see them? The breath flowing easily through your lungs, the peace of this quiet moment, the love that has touched your life, the simple miracle of being alive in a universe full of wonder. The wishing well's greatest gift is helping us remember that we are already rich beyond measure. Part 6. Stories of Rest and Letting Go. Now, dear soul, as we near the end of our peaceful journey together, we come to the quietest stories of all. Tales of rest and letting go, of surrendering to the gentle currents that carry us towards sleep and dreams. Let these final stories wrap around you like the softest blanket, guiding you gently toward the most peaceful rest. Story 20. The Sleepy Moon's Lullaby. High above the world, in the vast, star-scattered darkness of night, lived a gentle moon named Luna, who had the most important job in all the heavens. Every evening, as the sun painted her last golden strokes across the western sky and slipped below the horizon, Luna would rise slowly, glowing with soft, silver light, ready to begin her nightly work. Luna was not just any moon. She was the moon of sleep, the keeper of rest, the guardian of peaceful dreams. Her light was different from the bright, energetic light of the sun. Luna's light was gentle and calming, designed to help every living thing on earth settle into the restorative embrace of sleep. Each night, Luna would float across the star-filled sky, singing the most beautiful lullaby in the universe. Her song had no words that humans could understand, but every creature on earth felt its meaning deep in their hearts. It was a song that said, "Rest now, dear ones. Let go of the day. Allow peace to fill your weary souls." Luna's lullaby began with the tiniest creatures first. She would sing softly to the busy ants, helping them settle into their underground homes after their long day of working. Her gentle song would reach the buzzing bees in their hives, encouraging them to cluster together in warm, sleepy contentment. The crickets would hear her melody and begin their own chorus of peaceful night music, adding their voices to her universal lullaby. As Luna drifted higher across the night sky, her song would reach the larger creatures of the earth. She would sing to the birds nestled in their trees, their feathers fluffed and their heads tucked safely under their wings. Her lullaby would whisper to the deer resting in quiet meadows, helping them feel safe and protected in the darkness. Even the mighty bears in their caves would hear Luna's song and sink deeper into their winter dreams. But Luna's most special gift was the lullaby she sang to all the children of the world. As she floated past bedroom windows, her gentle light would stream through glass panes, painting silver patterns on walls and ceilings. Her song would weave through the night air, reaching every child who needed comfort in the darkness. "Sleep, little ones," Luna would sing in her voice like liquid starlight. "The day has given you all its gifts. You have learned and played and grown. Now it is time to let your bodies rest. to let your minds grow quiet, to let your hearts fill with peace. One night, Luna noticed a little boy named Sam sitting by his bedroom window, unable to sleep. His eyes were wide with worry, and he kept looking out into the darkness with concern. Luna drifted closer to his window, her light growing softer and more comforting. She could see that Sam was afraid of the dark, afraid of the unknown, afraid to let go of the day and surrender to sleep. "Hello, little one," Luna whispered, her voice like the gentlest wind chimes. "Why are you still awake when all the world is settling into rest?" Sam's eyes grew wide with wonder. "Are you really the moon? Are you talking to me?" "I am Luna," she replied warmly, "and I sing lullabies to help everyone on earth find peaceful sleep. But I see that you are worried about something. Can you tell me what's troubling your heart?" Sam pressed his small hands against the window glass. "I don't like the dark. It feels too big and scary. And when I sleep, I can't control what happens. What if I have bad dreams? What if something scary happens while I'm sleeping?" Luna's light grew even gentler, wrapping around Sam's room like a soft silver blanket. "Oh, my dear child, I understand your fears. But let me tell you a secret about the darkness and about sleep." Luna settled closer to Sam's window, her light dancing gently on his ceiling. "The darkness isn't empty, little one. It's full of rest. It's full of peace. It's full of all the quiet, gentle things that help your body and soul recover from the day. The darkness is like a soft blanket that the earth wraps around itself so all living things can sleep." "But what about bad dreams?" Sam asked quietly. Luna's voice became even softer, like the whisper of silk. "Dreams, dear Sam, are how your mind sorts through the day, how it processes all the things you've learned and experienced. Most dreams are your mind's way of playing and healing and growing. And even when dreams feel scary, they're just your mind working through worries so you can let them go." Luna began to sing her special lullaby, and as her voice filled Sam's room, something magical happened. The darkness outside didn't seem scary anymore. It seemed peaceful and protective. The night didn't feel unknown and threatening. It felt like a gentle friend wrapping the whole world in comfort. "Listen," Luna sang softly. "Listen to all the peaceful sounds of the night. Can you hear them?" Sam listened carefully and realized the night wasn't silent at all. He could hear the gentle whisper of wind through trees, the soft rustling of leaves, the distant sound of water flowing in a creek. He could hear the comforting night song of crickets, the gentle hoot of an owl, the peaceful breathing of the sleeping world. "The night is full of lullabies," Luna explained. "Everything in nature knows how to rest, how to let go, how to trust in the gentle care of darkness. The flowers close their petals and rest. The trees slow their growth and dream. Even the busy streams flow more quietly through the night." As Luna sang, Sam felt his eyes growing heavy, his worried thoughts growing quiet, his body relaxing into his soft bed. The moon's lullaby seemed to carry away all his fears, replacing them with a deep sense of safety and peace. "Rest is not something to fear," Luna whispered as Sam's eyes began to close. "Rest is nature's gift to you. It's how your body heals and grows. It's how your mind sorts through the day's experiences. It's how your heart fills up with peace for tomorrow's adventures." "Will you sing to me every night?" Sam asked sleepily. "I sing to everyone every night," Luna replied with infinite tenderness. "My lullaby is always there, floating on the night air, ready to comfort anyone who needs it. You just have to listen with your heart, and you'll always hear my song of peace." As Sam drifted off to sleep, Luna's lullaby grew even softer, spreading across the entire world. She sang to the parents tucking their children into bed, helping them let go of the day's worries. She sang to the elderly, offering them gentle dreams filled with beautiful memories. She sang to everyone who needed rest, everyone who needed peace, everyone who needed to be reminded that letting go and sleeping is one of life's most natural and necessary gifts. And as Luna continued her journey across the star-filled sky, her lullaby reached you too, dear listener. Feel her gentle light surrounding you. Hear her peaceful song in the quiet of this moment. Let Luna's lullaby remind you that rest is sacred, that sleep is healing, that letting go of the day and surrendering to peaceful dreams is not just okay. It's exactly what your body and soul need most. Close your eyes and listen. Can you hear Luna's eternal lullaby singing you toward the most peaceful sleep? Story 21. The Floating Feather. On a hillside where wildflowers danced in gentle breezes and the grass swayed like ocean waves, a small white feather named Whisper had become stuck in a tangle of thorny branches. She had been there for days, struggling and fighting against the thorns that held her, desperate to break free and continue her journey through the world. Whisper had once been part of a beautiful white dove who lived in the peaceful valley below. When the dove had preened her feathers one morning, Whisper had been released to begin her own adventure, floating on the wind currents that would carry her wherever they chose to take her. At first, Whisper had loved the feeling of flying. She had danced on warm air currents, spiraled up toward fluffy white clouds, and drifted gently over meadows and streams. The wind had carried her with such grace, and she had felt perfectly free, perfectly at peace with letting the air currents decide her path. But then a sudden gust had blown her into the thorny bush, and now Whisper was trapped. The more she struggled against the thorns, the more tangled she became. The more she fought to control her situation, the more stuck she felt. "This isn't fair," Whisper would say to herself as she twisted and turned, trying to break free. "I need to get out of here. I need to be floating free on the wind again. I can't just stay stuck like this." But all her struggling only made things worse. The thorns seemed to hold her more tightly with each effort to escape. For 3 days, Whisper fought against her situation, growing more and more frustrated, more and more exhausted. She had forgotten completely about the peaceful feeling of floating on air currents. So focused was she on fighting against where she found herself now. On the 4th morning, when Whisper was too tired to struggle anymore, an ancient oak tree who had been watching her efforts spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. "Little feather," the oak said gently, "why do you fight so hard against where you are?" Whisper looked up at the wise old tree. "Because I don't want to be stuck in these thorns. I want to be floating free on the wind. I want to be going somewhere, not trapped in one place." The oak's leaves whispered softly in the breeze. "But dear one, you are not truly stuck. You are simply resting in a different way than you expected. Fighting against where you are only creates more suffering. What if, instead of struggling, you simply let yourself be where you are?" "But I don't want to be here," Whisper said, her voice small and tired. "I understand," the oak replied with infinite patience. "But wanting to be somewhere else doesn't change where you are right now. And all your energy spent fighting this moment is energy that can't be used for appreciating this moment." Whisper had never thought about it that way before. "You mean I should just accept being stuck?" "I mean you should stop fighting the current of your life," the oak explained. When you were floating on the wind, you didn't fight the air currents. You trusted them to carry you where you needed to go. What if this tangle of thorns is also part of the current that's carrying you toward exactly where you need to be? But this doesn't feel like flowing, Whisper protested. This feels like being stopped. The oak chuckled, a sound like wind through branches. Sometimes, little one, the flow of life includes periods of rest, periods of stillness, periods of being held in one place. A river doesn't only flow in the open. Sometimes it pools in quiet eddies, sometimes it rests in still ponds. But it's all part of the same flowing. As Whisper listened to the oak's wise words, she felt something shift inside her feathery heart. What if, instead of seeing the thorns as her enemy, she saw them as simply another part of her journey? What if, instead of fighting against this moment, she surrendered to it the same way she had surrendered to the wind currents? Very slowly, very gently, Whisper stopped struggling. She let her feathery form relax completely, no longer fighting against the thorns that held her. And something amazing happened. As soon as she stopped resisting, the thorns no longer felt like prison bars. They felt like a resting place. Oh, Whisper breathed in wonder. When I stop fighting them, the thorns don't hurt anymore. That's the secret of surrendering to life's currents, the oak said warmly. When we stop fighting against where we are, we stop creating our own suffering. We can find peace even in unexpected places. As Whisper rested peacefully in the thorns, no longer struggling, she began to notice things she had missed while she was fighting. The thorny bush was actually blooming with tiny, beautiful flowers. Bees were visiting the blossoms, creating a gentle humming music. The view from the hillside was spectacular. She could see the entire valley spread out below like a patchwork quilt of green fields and winding streams. "It's beautiful here," Whisper said with surprise. "I was so busy fighting to leave that I never noticed how lovely it is where I am." "Sometimes," the oak replied, "life places us exactly where we need to be to see something important, to learn something valuable, or simply to rest before the next part of our journey begins." As the day warmed and gentle breezes began to blow across the hillside, Whisper felt the thorns loosening their hold on her. But instead of immediately trying to escape, she waited peacefully, trusting that when it was time to continue her journey, the way would open naturally. And sure enough, a warm air current lifted gently up the hillside, and the thorns released their hold. But this time, instead of being pulled away against her will, Whisper rose gracefully on the breeze, carried by currents that felt like loving hands. "Thank you," she called to the oak tree as she began to float away. "Thank you for teaching me that surrendering doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting the flow of life to carry me exactly where I need to go." "Remember, little feather," the oak called back. "Whether you're floating free or resting in thorns, you're always exactly where you need to be in this moment. Trust the current of your life. It knows the way." As Whisper danced once again on the air currents, she carried with her a new understanding. She had learned that fighting against life's flow created suffering, while surrendering to it brought peace. She had discovered that every moment, even the difficult ones, was part of the beautiful journey of existence. From that day forward, whenever Whisper found herself in unexpected places, caught in spider webs, resting on windowsills, or floating in puddles, she would remember the oak tree's wisdom. Instead of fighting against where she was, she would relax into the experience, trusting that life's gentle current would carry her exactly where she needed to be, exactly when she needed to be there. And you, precious listener, You too are floating on life's gentle currents. Sometimes the flow carries you quickly through exciting adventures, and sometimes it brings you to quiet resting places. Both are part of the same beautiful journey. Let yourself surrender now to this peaceful moment. Trust the gentle current that's carrying you toward restful sleep, and know that you are always exactly where you need to be. Story 22. The Dream Weaver. In the space between wakefulness and sleep, in that quiet, magical realm where day meets night and thoughts become dreams, there lived a gentle spirit called the Dream Weaver. She was neither fully of this world nor of any other, but existed in the soft twilight place where consciousness fades into peaceful rest. The Dream Weaver was ancient beyond counting, yet her touch was as gentle as a mother's lullaby. She had fingers like moonbeams and eyes like starlight, and her hair flowed like clouds drifting across a midnight sky. Her workshop was everywhere and nowhere, in the whisper of wind through bedroom curtains, in the soft glow of night lights, in the peaceful shadows that danced on sleeping walls. Every night, as the world settled into rest, the Dream Weaver would begin her sacred work. With infinite love and care, she would weave dreams for every sleeping soul, not just people, but all living beings who surrendered to sleep's gentle embrace. The Dream Weaver's loom was made of pure intention and loving kindness. Her threads were spun from the day's experiences, from memories both recent and old, from hopes and wishes, from the deep wisdom that lived in every sleeping heart. She would take the raw materials of each person's life and weave them into dreams that would heal, comfort, and restore. For little children, the Dream Weaver would craft dreams of magical adventures, flying through clouds, befriending talking animals, discovering treasure in enchanted forests. These dreams helped children process the wonder and excitement of growing up, of learning about the world, of expanding their sense of what was possible. For adults carrying heavy burdens, she would weave dreams of peace and rest, dreams of floating on calm lakes, of walking through serene gardens, of being embraced by loved ones who whispered that everything would be all right. These dreams helped wash away the stress and worry of daily life, filling the dreamer's heart with renewal and hope. For those who were grieving, the Dream Weaver would create the most tender dreams of all, gentle visits with loved ones who had passed on, conversations filled with love and forgiveness, scenes of reunion and peace. These dreams helped heal broken hearts and remind the grieving that love transcends all boundaries. The Dream Weaver never worked quickly or carelessly. Each dream was crafted with the same attention that a master artist might give to a precious painting, the same love that a grandmother might put into a quilt made for a beloved grandchild. One night, as the Dream Weaver sat at her invisible loom, she sensed a restless soul who couldn't quite surrender to sleep. It was a woman named Sarah who lay in her bed, her mind spinning with worries about tomorrow, her body tense with the accumulated stress of many difficult days. The Dream Weaver's heart filled with compassion for Sarah's struggle. She could see how tired the woman was, how desperately she needed rest, but also how her worried thoughts kept pulling her away from sleep's healing embrace. With special care, the Dream Weaver began crafting a dream just for Sarah. She wove together threads of Sarah's happiest memories. Lazy summer afternoons from childhood, the feeling of her grandmother's hand in hers, the taste of her mother's homemade soup, the warmth of her cat purring on her lap. She added threads of comfort and safety, the feeling of being completely loved and accepted. the sensation of floating weightlessly in warm water, the peace of watching snow fall gently outside a cozy window. Finally, the dream weaver wove in threads of hope and renewal, glimpses of problems solving themselves easily, feelings of strength and confidence, images of brighter days ahead filled with laughter and joy. As the dream weaver worked, she began to hum a soft melody, not a song with words, but a vibration of pure love and healing that traveled across the space between worlds to reach Sarah's restless heart. Slowly, gently, Sarah's worried thoughts began to quiet. Her tense muscles began to relax. Her breathing deepened and slowed. The dream weaver's lullaby reached into Sarah's mind like a gentle hand, smoothing away anxiety, like warm honey soothing a sore throat. When Sarah finally slipped into sleep, the dream weaver carefully placed her specially crafted dream into the woman's sleeping consciousness. In her dream, Sarah found herself walking through the most beautiful garden she had ever seen, where every flower seemed to whisper words of encouragement and every breeze carried away another worry. As Sarah slept peacefully, the dream weaver smiled with deep satisfaction and moved on to her next sleeping soul, ready to craft another healing dream with the same infinite love and care. The dream weaver understood something that many people forgot, that sleep wasn't just rest for the body, but medicine for the soul. Dreams weren't random, meaningless images, but carefully crafted healing experiences designed to restore balance, process emotions, and prepare the spirit for another day of living. Sleep, the dream weaver would whisper into the night air, her voice reaching every bedroom, every bed, every pillow where a head was about to rest. Is not time lost from living? Sleep is the foundation that makes all living possible. Dreams are not escapes from reality. They are the workshops where reality is healed and renewed. Through her work, the dream weaver reminded every sleeping soul of an important truth, that surrendering to sleep was an act of trust in life's healing power, that letting go of consciousness was how the soul replenished itself, that dreams were gifts of restoration given freely to all who were brave enough to close their eyes and let themselves be held by the loving darkness. As dawn would approach and the dream weaver's work for the night drew to a close, she would send one final blessing out into the world. Rest well, dear souls. Let my dreams carry you through the healing waters of sleep. Wake refreshed, renewed, and ready to embrace another day of this beautiful journey called life. And now, precious listener, the dream weaver prepares a special dream just for you. Feel her gentle presence in this quiet moment. Sense her loving hands crafting threads of peace and comfort and healing into the perfect dream for your sleeping soul. Let yourself sink into the soft embrace of rest, trusting that the dream weaver will tend to your spirit through the night, weaving dreams that will restore and renew and prepare you for tomorrow's gifts. Close your eyes now. Let the dream weaver's gentle hands guide you into the most peaceful sleep. Trust in the healing power of dreams. Rest now in the loving care of sleep's gentle embrace. Closing meditation, the garden of your heart. And now, dear soul, as our journey through these peaceful stories comes to its gentle close, it's time to visit the most sacred place of all, the garden of your heart. Let yourself settle even deeper into comfort now. Feel your body sinking into whatever supports you. Let every muscle soften, every breath deepen, every thought grow quieter. Imagine now that you're walking along a soft, winding path. Your feet are bare, and the path feels warm and smooth beneath them. The path is leading you through a beautiful archway covered in flowering vines. And as you pass through this archway, you discover the most magnificent garden you've ever seen. This is your inner garden, dear one, the garden of your heart, where all the wisdom from tonight's stories has taken root and is beginning to bloom. Look around this sacred space. See how the paths wind gently between beds of the most beautiful flowers. Notice how peaceful streams flow softly through the garden, their gentle babbling like whispered lullabies. Feel the warm, golden light that filters through the trees, creating dancing shadows that feel like blessings on your skin. In the center of your heart garden, there's a comfortable place to rest. Perhaps it's a soft patch of moss beneath an ancient tree, or a wooden bench beside a peaceful pond, or a circle of smooth stones warmed by gentle sunlight. Find your perfect resting place and settle there now. As you rest in the center of your heart garden, you begin to notice all the beautiful flowers that have bloomed from tonight's stories. Over there, growing beside the quiet lake of your inner peace, you see the golden sunflowers of hope, reminding you that you can grow into exactly who you're meant to be, one brave step at a time. Near the wise old oak tree of your inner strength, you notice the dancing leaves of acceptance, teaching you to trust life's gentle currents and let go of the need to fight against where you are. By the lighthouse of your inner calm, small candles of courage are glowing, reminding you that your light, no matter how small it seems, can brighten the darkness for others. Throughout your garden, you see the rainbow flowers of kindness that bloom wherever you've shared love with the world. The connecting threads of light that show how you belong to the great web of all life. The grateful stones of contentment that remind you of the treasures you already possess. And floating gently through your garden on the evening breeze, you notice the soft white feathers of surrender, teaching you that letting go is not giving up, but trusting in the flow of life's perfect wisdom. Take a moment now to breathe in the sweet fragrance of your heart garden. Smell the roses of love, the lavender of peace, the jasmine of joy. Let each breath fill you with the beauty of who you truly are. And now, dear one, it's time to plant the seeds for tomorrow's growth. Reach into the pocket of your heart, and you'll find there a handful of the most precious seeds. Seeds of wisdom from tonight's journey. Plant a seed of inner stillness, trusting that beneath all the ripples of your thoughts, there's a lake of perfect peace. Plant a seed of gentle patience, knowing that like the wise old tree, you're growing exactly as you should, at exactly the right pace. Plant a seed of brave authenticity, remembering that the world needs exactly the light that only you can shine. Plant a seed of loving kindness, understanding that every act of compassion creates flowers of beauty in the world. Plant a seed of grateful wonder for all the magic that surrounds you in each ordinary, extraordinary moment. And finally, plant a seed of perfect trust, knowing that you are always held by the loving currents of life, always exactly where you need to be. Watch now as these seeds settle into the rich, fertile soil of your heart. Feel them taking root in the depths of your being. Know that they will grow and bloom in their perfect time, bringing more beauty, more peace, more love into your life and into the world. Now, as you rest in your heart garden, let's breathe together in the most peaceful rhythm. Breathe in slowly, drawing in all the peace of this sacred space. Hold gently and breathe out, releasing anything you don't need to carry into your dreams. Breathe in love, Hold with gratitude. Breathe out worry. Breathe in trust. Hold with acceptance. Breathe out fear. Breathe in peace. Hold with contentment. Breathe out everything that no longer serves you. Feel yourself becoming lighter with each breath, your body melting into perfect relaxation, your mind growing softer and quieter, your heart filled with the most beautiful peace. The dream weaver is approaching now, her gentle hands ready to craft the perfect dreams for your sleeping soul. Luna the moon is singing her eternal lullaby just for you, and all the wisdom from tonight's journey is settling into your heart, like stars settling into the evening sky. You are safe. You are loved. You are exactly where you belong. The garden of your heart will bloom with beauty while you sleep, and when you wake, you'll carry with you all the peace and wisdom from this gentle night. Let yourself drift now, like whisper the feather on the softest breeze. Trust the current of sleep to carry you into the most healing rest. Know that you are held by love that is infinite and eternal. Sleep now, beautiful soul. Sleep in the garden of your heart, where peace blooms eternal and love grows endless. Rest, rest, rest. End of Zen stories to calm your mind and heal your heart. Sweet dreams, dear listener. May your sleep be peaceful and your dreams be filled with all the beauty your heart can hold. Until we meet again in another story, another moment of peace, rest well.